Teresa, you ready?
I'm switching it now.
All right.
All right.
Everybody on mute. All right. So we'll go ahead and call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. We'll go ahead with the roll call, please.
Chairman Ryan Green.
Here.
Jesse Koppel.
Here.
Charlie Campbell.
Here.
Walter Robb.
Here.
Steve Dyer.
Here.
All right, we'll go with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
More pants today. New business. Here, police officer. What's justice for all?
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to public comment on matters not on tonight's agenda. That's after this. I'm going right down the list as they gave it to me. So go ahead, Louis.
Oh my gosh.
I have a couple of issues I didn't discuss with you earlier.
Quite all right.
The first one, and that is that before you, as a draft, I guess, of GCC 1 and GCC 2 commercial zoning. If you're not aware, which I hope you are, there are two other chapters that were written specifically for downtown, VC and Village Commercial. My question is, when are you going to rezone the downtown area for the two zoning classifications that you have written and codified?
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. You want to circle back around when we get to that on the agenda?
That's ordinance, well, you don't want the ordinance, chapter 1167 and 1169, because both of these were under Mr. Standard when he was mayor.
Right.
And it's been sitting too long. If we aren't going to implement them, let's delete them, get them off the books. The second thing I want to discuss is zoning map. I had,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, I can blame Teresa or Sean for it, but this is your zoning map
Well, that's Bailey.
that does not meet the code. It's a long way off. The last zoning map that came even close to meeting the code was this document. It was never finished. It was in draft form because we changed engineering firms. We had a contract with one engineering firm and spent $5,000 to get this far, but the new engineering firm's CAD system was not compatible with the previous engineering firm. I would like to see get back to a zoning map that is authorized by council and the mayor and meet the criteria of the code. You have something?
Yeah, I do. So one of the issues we ran into with trying to align the zoning code to the map is that there were some legal questions whether you could change someone's zoning code unilaterally, because that changes their rights. And so we sort of ran into a roadblock, didn't we?
None of these on here are that way. All of these were done by ordinance over years. And you can see the ordinance that changed each zoning classification on here. And since, I think, how far back do you have online as far as the minutes go?
2013.
2014?
13.
13?
When I started.
There are a number of zoning changes, reorganizations that are not depicted on the map.
Yeah, like
individual.
And so I guess as a citizen and as a user, I'd like to ask that you comply with the ordinance and get an official zoning map. It's going to take money. We got, I think, $5,000 to do this. Now, to have someone start over today, it's probably going to be $10,000. So that's something to discuss with the Budget Committee for next year.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing that to us. That is something that's come up before.
Pardon me?
That is something that's come up before as we go through and we look at that map for certain properties that don't work with the current map.
I know it's come up, but I haven't heard anything
Yeah.
happening.
Well, could we make a motion to officially recommend a map update to council? I'd like to make that motion. Teresa, can we make that motion?
Yeah, you can make that recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I will.
And that just puts it on their
Steve can
radar
get
too.
it. So,
Steve Dyer, I'll do a roll call.
yes.
Charlie Campbell.
Yes.
Jesse Koppel.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Walter Hall.
Yes. And that might fit in nicely with what we're doing with MKS.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Louis. I think that is an
Be extra,
important
but-
recommendation. Of course.
Can't take it with you. All right. Thank you, Louis. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from August 9th and August 23rd. I'll make a motion to approve both as written.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we'll move on to our tabled application here.
August 9th.
We don't have that coming back tonight, right?
No, the applicant did reach out, just requesting that it continued to be tabled. They didn't have anything new to bring forth to the board. And then I contacted our attorney, and he also recommended, since the applicant had requested it to continue to be tabled, he would recommend that just by an order, if you did take it off and some vote or action was taken, due process would be argued by that particular client, so.
Yep.
So we have to vote to table it again, so his time
Nope,
rolls.
we leave
Okay.
it, so if we wanted to bring it off the table, you'd have to vote to do that, but since there's
Okay.
no news on it and
No.
they don't have a new date or anything.
No, and if you decide that you do want to take it off the table, the proper procedural thing would be just to notify the applicant. That way their due process is at least given, so that they can't come back and say, we weren't notified prior to the
Right.
table being removed.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 7, application Z-22-191, the conditional use permit for 18 South Main Street. Sean, if you'd like to give us the background on this?
Sure. In your packet, all my notes in order here. Applicant has a property in the GCC1 district, and they would like to do a transient style of business. Hotel is anything over 4 units, transient, I believe, is anything under 4 units. So this classification would be for the transient. And it is a conditional use, it is not a guaranteed use. So you can place conditions on the application. There are a list of conditions that they would like you to review. When I mean they, it is in the codified ordinance as far as a set of instructions. So just as a narrative, I think I've covered most of that, but what I will skip to directly is my staff report at the very back of it. And it is a rather lengthy packet because there is a lot of context that goes along with this. I included the definition of the transient use, so that's in there for your review. Also, the conditional use requirements. So like I said, I'll skip to the recommendations. It was hard for me to make a recommendation on this particular application just because there's there's not a lot of information given so that I could give a support or denial. And what I mean by that is, if I'm incorrect, correct me if I'm going wrong, Travis, as far as where the transient would be. Would that be upstairs? Would it be downstairs? How many units would there be? So all those pieces of information, if I had known them ahead of time, it may have been easier for me to give a recommendation. But the applicant is here, so he may be able to answer some of those questions. But without prior knowledge of that, I didn't feel comfortable giving a recommendation one way or the other. So I did attach the board reference 113103, the general standards for conditional use. I've highlighted some of the more important areas that I felt were important. That's on page 5. And I even went through some of the ones that you may want to pull out specifically, and that's A, C, D, F, G, and I. I can actually go through some of those if you would like. A simply states will be harmonious with existing or intending character of the general vicinity, that such use will not change the general character of the area. So depending on the intensity, how many units he's going to have, I'm believing that it's under 4, may or may not have an impact on the general character. Obviously, it's a commercial district, so if there were to be a transient business on the first floor, that may not be as harmonious as if it were just on the second floor. So that would be one item that you would want to pay attention to and evaluate. C was another one that I felt would be one that you definitely want to highlight. Will be served adequately by essential public facilities, services such as highways, streets, police, fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water, sewer, and schools. So the main highlights on those would probably be drainage structures, and then also mostly refuse disposal, so trash containers. If this is a hotel or transient business, depending on the scale and the structure and the size of it, you could have anything from a simple little trash can on wheels or a dumpster. And is there adequate space for those things to exist, and then also for a trash truck to get in? Currently, he's being serviced by some type of trash facility right now, or maintenance or some sorts. Commercial's a little bit different, so he's probably not under local waste service. So I think in the back is where he has his, but that would be a question that you may want to ask. D, will not create excessive additional requirements for public facility and service, will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. That kind of goes back to the GCC1 district being identified more for commercial, less as residential. So there's a balance there. Obviously, we allow for residential on the upstairs, and to be somewhat harmonious with that particular district, but there are some limitations on that. F, will have vehicular approaches to the property which shall be so designated as do not interfere with traffic or surrounding public streets or roads. So I put that one in there probably more for parking situations. Obviously, if it's in a different GCC1 district, those areas have their own parking lot. These particular units along that area rely heavily on public parking. So any increase on the amount of public parking that may be needed for this type of business needs to be evaluated. I believe the applicant does have some parking in the back. Not completely sure. That would be another question that you would want to identify. How many parking spaces would be identified for them, or is it just going to be relied on for all of public parking? Public parking is heavier on one side of the street than obviously the other. So that could be a determining factor as well as far as proximity to infrastructure. Will it be taking up spaces in the front, which are primarily for the businesses that exist? So you guys have a lot to consider. I'll continue. G, complies with any other requirements or standards that are cited under the specific zoning district regulations of this ordinance. So there are a whole other list that you would need to evaluate. I won't bore you with some of those, but if you did want to use those for some of your decision, I would definitely recommend utilizing those. And then I, will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic features of major importance. So this would be if there's going to be alterations to the building in order to accommodate the particular use that the applicant is wanting to do. What's that do to the historic preservation of the building that exists? Is it an improvement? Is a devaluation from a historic preservation? Does it bring a higher quality or a lower quality into the area? So those are the highlight reels. I also put in here, consideration should be given to the first floor or second floor location of the transient accommodations. The main reason I bring this up, currently no single-family or multifamily is allowed on first floor in the GCC1 zoning district. So that, I think, has some factor into some of the decisions that are being made tonight. So I'll kind of pause at this point because I'm sure you have either A, a lot of questions, or you want to hear from the applicant, and then I'll be here and try to answer any questions that you may have moving forward to my best of my ability.
Thank you, Sean. At this time, we'll go ahead and bring up our applicant. And if you could just give us background on the project, tell us everything about it.
Yeah, so I'm looking to convert the office, the window on the left that has my logo on there, Biltwell Homes, into, I don't know what we're calling it. He's calling it transient accommodations. I think of it as overnight accommodations, room, for rent, short-term rental. They're trying to steer me away from that, but that particular unit has access to the alley. I know that's a concern of, mixing, the business with somebody that's staying on, be staying in the room. So that's a possibility. It does have access to the alley in the back. We do have 2 parking spots. We currently have trash service. We have 2 roll-offs, so I don't see needing anything bigger than that for this project. Then, of course, I have the second story as well. It's currently a long-term rental. So, but I'd like to convert that as well to short-term. So.
All right, can you tell us any more about it along the line Sean was going down as far as, all of your goods, all your utilities, services, density? You're just saying 1 unit, correct?
The downstairs shares electric, and then
Okay.
the upstairs has its own electric service.
Okay,
The whole building shares 1 water meter, and sewer, obviously. Yeah, as far as the, we're not planning on any major renovations. It's already, like I said, I got an apartment upstairs is what I would call it. The downstairs has a kitchen, a bathroom, and a loft as it is. Of course, we put another bed in there. So, it just sits. I don't use the office, and I think it's something that would benefit the community. There's definitely a need for more housing, and I think we could do something nice in there. So.
okay.
So you currently have residents living upstairs?
I do.
And how many rooms do you have up there?
It's a 1-bedroom.
1 bedroom on the 2nd floor?
Correct.
And if everything got approved tonight, how many places would you have total?
2 to start. So
1
we-
up, 1 down?
Correct.
Okay. A lot of decisions to make tonight because I thought the application was kind of vague. I didn't know what to kind of expect. So I got some questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll go down through, and then we will open to public comment afterwards, and then we'll give you a chance to come back.
So I think Sean's calling it transient accommodations because that's what it's stated in our code. But would you, how long are the rentals going to be for?
I mean, I would hope as long as possible. I'll take 60 days. A lot of them are shorter. People come in town for the weekend. It's hard to predict, what your bookings are gonna.
Right. It's just the code here says, I believe it says 30 days is the maximum for a rental. I think you currently have a long-term rental upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like,
It's a year lease.
that's a year lease. And that's there. That's yours.
Correct.
Okay. I was thinking tonight that.
We might not be able to approve that because of the lease and the code saying 60 days, right? Is that what the conflict that you're thinking?
Well, I
Or 30
wanted
days.
to hear how long he wanted to have.
Well, I can't. I can't
break the lease
I can't
now,
break the
but-
lease if I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, shoot myself in the foot on that one.
I got you. So would you end up having 2, sorry, Steve, would you end up having 2 units downstairs or just end up having?
Well, there's a storage area that's got potential. If these do good, I would probably, consider
Finish
adding
out that other one.
a third. And also, like I said, I've got a plan in my head. I know I don't have anything to show you where I could build a hallway where everything would exit out the back. So I know you guys had a concern about, mixing, I know Ryan, we talked a little bit, you said about mixing, I guess you're calling it the commercial foot traffic with somebody.
Well, I was talking about upstairs, basically how it is. If you have commercial and residential in a building, there's different uses, there's different involvements. If you're gonna use the same floor for commercial, residential, there's a lot of things that you have to look through in the code to go through those.
The back area is currently zoned residential. It was a mixed-use building when I got it. So the upstairs is zoned residential, the back portion, which is just storage, is residential, and then the front two are commercial. So, it's got a, it's mixed up. That's the way it was when I got it.
Welcome to Johnstown zoning, right?
Just to clarify, the zoning is GCC 1, which is a commercial district.
Right.
I think what he's mentioning is the use.
The use, yeah.
And sometimes you have uses that are non-conforming, and then if a non-conforming use isn't utilized for over a period of 2 years, it no longer is grandfathered in, and is not allowed to be back into
That was
a
gonna be my question.
non-conforming
So
situation.
where's it at right now?
I don't know the timetables on it. I did not track it.
Right.
I've only been here for 4 months, so.
Right.
Right, I didn't know
It's
if
been
we
for
knew
4
that.
months.
I guess that was a rude question.
But the applicant may have better
Has it
knowledge
been
on
2
it.
years since it's been used as residential, the storage area?
Roughly, close to 2 years. Honestly, it hasn't, because we just started using storage about April of '21.
So like, not understanding all your plans tonight, I was trying to figure out like what works for what I'm trying to do on this board and what we're trying to do. And I decided before knowing your plans that if you wanted to do everything upstairs, I was okay with it. But putting the residential units out, down in the front, especially up by the front window, I feel like that's not where we're headed with section H. And-
So if they pass, it's my understanding, if they pass House Bill 563, I believe it is, that would negate the local code, is that correct?
I'd have to read that one. I think that's for residential.
I have no idea what
I think
house.
that.
I'm curious.
It
I
has
think
to do
that's-
something with
that's
if you have a
mostly
mortgage,
residential.
is the place mortgaged? I think that's part of it.
Yeah, they do. So that's a different issue. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I think that's mostly for residential. What they were worried about was people buying up large, blocks of properties, turning them all into Airbnbs. But I think that was mostly aimed at residential.
It was my understanding that House Bill 563 actually prohibits a township from dictating what you can and can't do with your property as far as short-term rentals and.
And I'm sure there'd be conflicts with home rule that if it's passed would have
I was
to be
just
hashed
curious,
out.
if
Right.
that would come into
Right.
play.
It doesn't apply to what we're doing tonight, but I know where you're headed with
It
it.
could come into play, it's gonna.
I don't know that it applies to GCC 1, business, commercial type zoning. I didn't write the bill, so I'd have to look at it, but, yeah, I think it's mostly aimed at residential. But, again, there would be other things. I don't think it applies to what we're looking at tonight. Steve, did you have any other questions on that?
Sorry. No, that's all, I did, but, no, it's done.
I do. So if we were to approve what you've asked for tonight, what does that do to the occupancy of the places right next? And you still own that, the business on the right. So would that be something that you would, we're only voting on what's been brought to us is the one on the left and the upstairs, basically. But there is one on the right. So how would that fall into what we're gonna do here?
If the opportunity presented itself and the barber left, I would certainly consider adding another unit if it's successful downstairs and upstairs. I think to see, I'd be comfortable with 2 units, but it could certainly come into play,
You have to come back in to get another
Right.
for that one later, yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm getting at. So, this is only for these two.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to change it out, then you'd have to come back in and ask to do this again.
Anything else? So would this be subject to the bed tax thing?
It would.
It would, and that's,
Are you familiar with that part?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did some research on that, and it looks like 6% goes to or I'm sorry, the 6% is collected in Johnstown, and 3% goes to a Johnstown Bureau of Travel and Tourism, I believe it's
Visitor Bureau,
called.
yeah.
And then 50% of the other 3% goes to a general fund.
Now,
Actually-
luckily, we don't have to deal with taxes and things of that nature on this board, though. We're just concerned with the zoning.
know, I was just-
But it
I just
is
wanna
something that comes in down the road.
I just want to make sure he's
Yeah,
aware that it,
Well,
yeah,
there is a zoning ordinance on it.
there is.
I believe it's, I have it somewhere here. Yeah, and that would be, obviously, I'm gonna call into play 10 West Pratt, as precedent for, there's three, I guess they're calling it transient accommodations at 10 West Pratt. They do have a downstairs common area where if you stay in the room, you're actually allowed to go down there and sit on the couch, and it's on the first floor too, so it's very similar to what I'm asking for, as far as, I'm concerned. So I think it does become precedent for what I'm asking for,
Any other questions, Jesse?
So you want to have it, you're basically looking for a long-term rental, is what it sounds
No.
like.
No, I just want to do rooms by the night, yeah.
But if somebody came in for a year, you wouldn't be opposed to it.
I mean, if they're going to pay the rate,
Right.
you're-
Well, that's what I'm saying, because if you're good with 6 months or a year, it's a
What's the
different
difference between
thing.
an
But
apartment?
now on the first floor, obiously, that's still residential on the first floor, but
I mean, I think
on the
that's
top
fine, yeah,
floor,
like-
that's a whole different thing.
But it's possible, the idea is, you're tapping into a whole different market, your long-term rental is, it's not micromanaged, with these short-term rentals, you're providing a furnished spot, towels and all the luxuries of staying in a hotel. I doubt that you would get somebody for 6 months, but I wouldn't turn it away if it came,
Yeah.
because you're making, honestly, 4 or 5 times what you would in a long-term rental. And you have to look at the numbers like that.
And
I know Airbnb's been, and things like that, short-term rentals have been popular recently. We've talked a lot about them. I don't know how that'll all shake out with Intel and everything coming this way. I think most of those contractors, you'll get guys that are there as a specialist or maybe something for a weekend or something like that, but I think you're gonna get a lot of long-term tenants and employees, because it's gonna be a long-term, multi-year project.
Where are they gonna stay?
So, right, but I'm saying we already have things on the books that make it very easy for you to rent out place for a year, for 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I will have to refer back to, under this conditional use, the longest they could stay is 30 days now, whether you would do a new contract for 30 days right after that.
Right.
But it does say in there 30
Yeah.
days, so let's just use that as our baseline, is how long they're gonna be staying.
If that's the ordinance, then I would follow it.
And the residential property would come all the way up to the window where you have your sign currently?
No, not necessarily. We're gonna make a buffer, so that's kind of separated. I'll be honest, I wanna keep the sign. I don't wanna lose the sign. That's, I get a lot of business off that signage, so I'm pressed. If I had to lose a sign, I would, but I'd like to keep the sign, honestly.
Just for the board's knowledge, if you were to move the office, the sign would then be considered an off-premise sign, which
Right.
you can pass a variance or not, but it would no longer be allowed, because it would be considered an off-premise sign, because the office is no longer there to provide for that. I'm just making you aware.
The more you chop up a building,
So I could
the more
move
you chop up a building, the more
Yeah, I can work
interesting
around
all
that.
this gets.
I can work around that. I mean, it's not, ideal. Ideally, I'd like to keep it, but
Yeah. You don't have any plans to show us what it would look like or anything?
no. I mean, I can show you, honestly, exactly what I want to do is what Ghost Rider is already doing. My style of design is pretty similar to what they're doing. I mean, I would say revert back to, their webpage, I mean, I have it printed out here. My building is already set up as, I don't need to, it's all there. You know, we already have a kitchen upstairs, we have a kitchen downstairs. All I need to do is add beds. I mean, the design is already there. We're not building anything.
Steve, you brought up a point which I just want to highlight on page 4, and I think this is what you're speaking to, and I highlighted it for this very reason, and it may answer some of your questions. That's on 1131.02, item B, a plan of the proposed site for the conditional use showing the location of all building, parking, loading areas, traffic circulation, open spaces, landscape, refuse, service areas, utility sign, yard, such other information as the commission may require or determine to be proposed conditional use met for the intent of the requirement. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, or at least questions that have been verbally given, but for a documentation to be presented to you so that you can evaluate it on, hey, I see where the actual parking exists. If you were to pull up, an aerial map, Travis has
saw that.
referenced this particular parking in the back here. Just an aerial that would identify the parking, the refuse containers. It's even acceptable for you to ask for a layout of how the things would look on the inside, since it is a business, to some degree of what, what's it looking like upstairs, what's it looking like downstairs. You guys keep asking about the downstairs, how it's chopped up is the word I keep hearing. It is well within the board's right to ask for some of these items. If you want some visual drawings to be set forth, or you can also just go off of the verbal documentation. It makes it a little bit harder on staff to enforce verbal, because then it's left a little bit more for interpretation. So I'm basically saying this to cover myself and Jim's self. From an enforcement standpoint, we don't have a lot to go on except for the conversation that's here.
I
If we
think
had a
that's-
document, it would be
I think
helpful.
that's key.
Yeah, I think it is key because
That's where I'm at too, is I like to,
'Cause I have-
I like the visual, I like to see.
I have a list of questions I haven't gotten to yet.
I will let you go
I have a
right
list of
ahead. I
questions that-
apologize.
No, I'm kind of working down the row here, just till we get to that, but I'm a visual person, so it helps. But, yeah, I know on this, going through 113103, I had similar call-outs on there. Is it harmonious? How are you looking on public services, fire, water, sewer, bathrooms, parking? Obviously the economic welfare of our downtown area. If you're flooding it with people, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Because now that I know it's 2 bedrooms down there, that's a different story, but I didn't know if it was 4 or 8 or how many you were trying to do. Obviously less than 5, but
I think the people with
For this.
businesses would like that. I mean, you'd have more people shopping. I mean, I'm just,
a crowd can be a great thing or a bad thing depending on how it ends up. But Steve could tell you. But so going down the road there, obviously the vehicle approaches. I did not know about the parking in the back. Those are dedicated spaces
for my building, yeah.
back there. Okay. And then obviously, how does this work with the zoning and strategic planning and things like that? I looked at those. The application, 1131.02, obviously we have a picture of the site, but an actual site plan, renderings, things like that, we are lacking there. A statement on the effects of the property. We do have verbal, but nothing written there. The adjacent property owners, I saw the sign down there, but did we notify everybody and did we hear anything from the property owners?
The only inquiry I had was from the Johnstown Monroe Fire Department, because the township received, I sent them a contiguous letter too.
Okay.
And the fire department contacted me for the township. They
Okay,
had no opinion, they just wanted to see what was going on.
all right. And then obviously, we have, I always like to reference the comp plan, even though it's old and kind of dated. We still paid a lot of money and put some time into it.
It's what we have as our
So
documents.
we reference that. I know that we had tried to stay more mixed use in that area, but more commercial, heavier on the commercial. I also looked into our design review, even though this is totally different group, and we are at odds with how those merge sometimes. I do know that in that area that we highlighted ground floor commercial, mixed use, residential business on top. Trying to stay about 30% residential. Fenestration was also something that we referenced in there. We try to stay 70% on that bottom, and if you're gonna have residents in there, I don't think they want a giant window, 70% window on that one side. You know, cause everybody that's walking down the street's looking in on it. So that would be something that we look at too. Now ownership of the property, just looking at this map, do you have ownership of that property then?
Correct.
Okay. Obviously, just with names, I know it doesn't always carry over and everything. I just saw, because we've had an applicant come in before where they didn't own the property outright and they wanted to make all kinds of changes to it. We found that later on, they didn't even,
Yeah, I have
Own the-
equitable rights to the property.
okay,
I have credentials if you need to see that.
okay. That's just something I ask everybody, because we ran into a weird situation with that in the past.
Does he, well, can I interrupt for a
Yeah.
second on one of your points? Would he need to get a certificate of appropriate, of whatever it's called, from the design review board?
If he did.
If he's gonna change the property. Yeah, if he's gonna change the exterior, yes.
So in this case, since he's not really planning to
Yeah,
change.
he said minimal, so it's just inside, I imagine.
Okay.
Well, on the first floor, like I said, if, you know, obviously his window that he has right now, I don't think anybody wants that as a, you know,
Be surprised.
okay.
I mean, it's, I mean, there's blinds. I mean, have you ever been in the building?
I haven't been in it, but I've been around
Gorgeous
it
view
a
of
lot.
the town square.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive, honestly. You know, I tend to differ. I mean, I have a different opinion. I think people would go crazy for it, honestly.
Okay,
It's a pretty unique experience. I stayed in a similar Airbnb in Charleston, South Carolina. It was the first floor. It looked right out on the church, and I couldn't get enough. It had the same setup. That's honestly what gave me the idea.
now back to my questions on this though, as far as so it looks to be somewhat of parking is handled. Fire systems, water and sewer, you mentioned a kitchen on both floors, you have a bathroom on both floors? Okay, and then as far as fire mitigation, do you have plans on that?
I've met all the codes.
Okay.
Been inspected
Okay,
in January. I have all the safety protocols in place, exit signs, extinguishers.
okay. As far as that, do you have questions before I open up to public comment?
Yeah, like I said, I'd like to see a plan, and I'd like to, you know, have a firmer idea of what you're looking for first and second floor. So, I mean, yeah, you've got a concept, and no problem there, but I'd just like to have a firmer idea of, you know, what I understand you're looking for both first and second floor, but I'd like to have a layout of the building so I can see, you know, what we have, and then if there is any difficulty further on, then you'd have yourself covered. You'd say, this is what's been approved.
Right.
And things, so, and I, you know, I don't have that right now, so.
So maybe some interior pictures and then like a, you know,
Yeah, if you could draw a plan, or have somebody draw a plan or whatever, and some interior pictures, yes, that would be very helpful for this situation.
that's doable.
All right, we'll go ahead, I'll have you take a seat and we'll open to public comment, and then, we'll bring you back up. Is there any public comment on this? Okay. All right, well, that was a short one, so, sorry about that, Travis. I thought there'd be some public comment. All right, so as far as this, is this something we'd look into tabling, or would you
Yes,
be?
I was gonna
Or would
recommend
you
that.
wanna make a motion on this tonight?
I recommend we table it.
I'd like to table it too.
Okay,
I'd like more information. I just don't feel comfortable with what we have right now. It's just a lot of verbal and things. I'd like a little more concrete, and
Sure.
that would help me in making a good decision for Johnstown.
all right.
Can I motion?
You can motion,
Motion
and
to table.
Walter can second.
I second.
All right.
Charlie Campbell.
I'm gonna abstain because he's my nephew.
Oh,
Oh,
good old Johnstown, man, I tell you.
Jesse Koppel. Motion to-
Yes, yay, yes.
Brian Green,
Yes.
Walter Rob,
Yes.
Steve Dyer.
Yes.
All right.
On my own.
So with that, we'll go ahead and table this. If you want to come back in with a plan that matches more closely to everything requested and come back with a presentation, we'll take another look at it. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to number 8. The board request for reconsideration of application Z-22-178, the variance on 20 Pratt Street. So, just to I can give the background on this. As you guys know, we saw this at our last zoning meeting. We kind of had a snap there, didn't have everybody. So, we had a request for the appeals process. We went through that with our applicant, and the request was made to see this again. Under our appeals process, and Sean can back me up if I'm wrong on this,
If you
but
want, I'll-
we have a couple options, but I think the easiest in this case, after taking a look at it, is, we'll bring this back. So as a member of the technically prevailing side,
Dissenting.
I can, or yeah, dissenting, however you wanna look at it, since it was 2-2 vote, we can bring this back to a vote, and, we'll go back through our vote as a full group.
If you want, just because this may be under the microscope a little bit, I can actually read through the.
Yeah, Sean will give us the legal definition. We did check with our attorneys on this.
Yes, I just don't want there to be any misconception.
Carried out the letter of the law.
Yeah. First, as Ryan mentioned, there are 3 options. One, they can appeal it. The appeal would go to the county, the decision that was rendered by the board. And I bring that up just for way of information for any other applicant that would do a variance process, not particularly for this one. But that is one option that is afforded to the applicant. If it is denied here, they can appeal it to the county. 2, they can file a variance again and again and again. Obviously, there is a fee component to the variance, so depending on how much money they would want to continue to throw at a particular variance is up to the applicant's discretion, but they're able to file for a variance over and over again. The other one, the third one, and this all comes from our attorney, it's called a motion to reconsider. It's actually in your guys' planning and zoning rules. It's under 9.05. Any member who voted on the prevailing side of an issue may move for a reconsideration of any action of the board, provided the motion is made by the next regular meeting after such action was taken. So that is an important component. That has to be the next meeting after action was taken. So this would not be allowed the following meeting. Some of that, in my opinion, not an attorney, but it obviously has to be done in a timely manner, or else they do need to file for that variance, because at that point, it looks like we're trying to do things in a shady fashion, which is never the optics and never the procedures that we want to do. So I just want to highlight that real quick, provided the motion is made by the next regular meeting after such action was taken. A motion to reconsider shall be in the order at any time except when a motion or any other subject is pending. A motion to reconsider being laid upon the table may be taken up and acted upon at any time. No motion to reconsider shall be made more than once, that's another important part, on any matter or subject. All questions shall be considered in order with in which they were made. So once this is made a motion, if it's so desired by the board to reconsider it, this is a one-shot deal. You don't get to keep going back and forth each meeting or during the meeting. So I'll leave it at that. It's up to the board if they want to reconsider it. One of the prevailing vote winners would have to make that motion. If there is no desire to do so, then it lays as the decision that was made at the last meeting, and we move on, and the applicant has the other options that they can pursue. There's your legal
That was
Thank you.
fantastic.
yada yada.
Thank you.
So Ryan's made
So
the motion.
I think that'll clear that up.
Do we need a second to
as-
that?
As technically
Prevailing means.
Can the second be anyone?
Yes.
I'll second it.
okay,
So this is the motion to reconsider the
this
application.
is the motion to reconsider.
And then you'll re-vote on the
Yep.
application.
I think we're ready to just re-vote, right?
So we have to vote on the motion to reconsider, and then we vote on,
Oh,
There has to be a
Vote
motion
twice.
passed to reconsider the application.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so I have a first by Mr. Green and a second by Mr. Cobble.
Do we go back through everything?
Pardon me?
Do we go back through everything, so because I am.
We can, if you want to go back through it, we
I
can
want to hear
go.
I want to hear why we didn't vote for it or why we did vote for it. I mean,
I
we're
could-
equal on
Okay.
both sides, okay?
I put the full application back in the
Just
packet.
gonna make things complicated, aren't you?
The information was
Right here, Charlie.
Just some information.
Right here.
I read
We have
what it
the
said. I
information
read everything in
back
there.
There's
I
a
read
motion on the
everything. I read
table.
everything that was handed out.
So we gotta vote,
you read through
Charlie.
the
I know.
packet.
We got to vote here.
Yes. To reconsider.
Yes.
We'll have you present as soon as we do this, and we'll have you, we'll go back through it. Yep, yep, we'll go right back through, so everybody's got the up-to-date info. Yep,
So the current motion is just to reconsider the application. So Jesse Cobble, you said
Yes.
Ryan Green,
yes,
Walter Robb,
Yes.
Steve Dyer,
Yes.
Charlie Campbell.
Yes.
okay.
Look at that.
Now you may reconsider.
All right, so we will go ahead and bring our applicant up.
Charlie show.
We'll go back through.
So thank you for letting me speak. My name's Dennis Blankemeyer. My wife and I own 20 East Pratt. And so I just want to add maybe a little bit of color. My apologies. We were both traveling in the last meeting and didn't get a chance to talk. Quite frankly, this has been a very unique project, and if you want to hear any horror stories, just talk to Jim about the hoops that we had to jump through just to get fire alarm and sprinkler system, et cetera. But the basic premise for what we're saying is it's just that alley gets a lot of traffic. It gets a tremendous amount of traffic. The previous applicant is on that back alley. We have a renovation next to us. And so it's just for us, it's a matter of safety and security. A 6-foot fence is great, but this is kind of more of a commercial on that back end. And I feel like it's so much different than a residence to residence or residence to an alley that's a residence across the street. And just for some color, when we're, just before we're about to do the demolition work, we've had, time and time again, we had break-ins in the building. And we didn't ever call the police about it because they were breaking into one of the apartments to take a shower. So we've trying to figure out how they got in. We finally figured out they climbed up the fire escape and were going through the window. So we had the door locked to the apartment. So it's just a 6-foot fence isn't much when you have that much traffic. 6-foot fence isn't that much when you have that many people walking behind. And it's not always, it's kind of dark and it's not the safest place. Denise and I will be living there. That'll be our backyard. So we just love you to reconsider, and I appreciate it. And I never knew there was going to be so much strife over 2 feet, but here we are. But I also want to say I appreciate your guys' job and your service to the community. I'm not trying to butter you up to say one way or the other. I know these decisions and what you have to do to manage this is not easy. So I just want to thank you, everybody. And I don't know if anything else to add.
No, I agree. My brother serves on a council for 16 years, so I understand what you guys go through day in and day out, and it's not an easy job. And just getting the facts and trying to keep the emotion out of it is hard, but I appreciate what you all do.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions for me?
Do you have any?
Do you feel that will give you more safety to your house? Is that what you're trying to say?
I
mean, 2 feet?
Yeah, because, I mean, a 6-foot fence is great, but, I mean, it's not it's a pretty easy thing to jump over. An 8-foot just makes it a little bit more significant, I think. And I think I think for me, too, it's a visual deterrent a little bit more than anything, right? If somebody's going to try to break into your house, they're going to do it, right? You're not going to stop them. But.
Okay, and I was looking at your fence, and, I mean, is this the fence that you're going to put up, same kind? I mean,
Yes,
with
yeah.
the lines,
Yeah.
lines to it, yeah, with the,
The climbing holes?
yeah, right, I mean,
That was my
I'm
thought,
looking at
too.
you,
It's easy
they
to
might not be
climb.
able to jump up there, but they can sure as hell put
Yeah.
their feet in and climb up there, that's what I'm just trying to say.
Right. And I think, I mean.
But it's a
The
visual.
fire escape you
It's
listed
a
is,
visual
the fire
deterrent.
escape's on the side.
But it's a
Fire
visual
escape's on
deterrent,
the
I
back,
understand
right?
that, okay?
Yes. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, we've been broken into in that building, at that position.
Right.
So any deterrent that you could have up there is important.
Yeah.
I've got a few questions.
Sure.
You're saying you're gonna be staying there. Which part of the building do you plan to stay in, or, can you point
Yeah,
to it or help
yeah,
me?
so-
I'm looking, I'm looking for, if you got a good reason, yeah, I mean.
So Denise and I, we've renovated the second floor of that for our personal residence.
Okay,
And then we have a entry area that faces Pratt.
okay.
So no bedrooms downstairs. I know that was a no-no with the
Yeah.
gym.
So,
yeah,
Sean's got it up here.
Yeah.
Or he's got it close. Yeah, this is a little bit older picture, because I know you
Yeah.
got the garage door, it's painted
Yep,
and things. So can you point out there where your normal entrance is gonna be? And you're planning to stay on the second floor in this building, right?
Yeah, so, sorry, there's a new storefront in here now.
I got out a
Hey,
little
you're making me
humor.
dizzy, Sean,
This
stop.
has been redone. I don't know if
Yes.
you want to go past it. There's
Yeah,
storefront
I
there,
walk around there a
So
lot,
there's,
so.
you see a piece of plywood
Yes,
on
sir.
the store, that's the door. And then you can look in and see
Okay.
the stairs.
Yeah, I know there's a door there, then there's a piece of plywood, then there's a garage
The
door.
door is to a
It's-
trash area that will probably service the front office
Okay.
or whatever we're gonna do in the front, but the entrance to it is plywood.
So you're normally gonna be up on the second floor. So that's why my question, if you're up on the second floor, it doesn't matter whether you got 6 foot or 8 foot, it's not gonna help on the visual to the back
There's an
alley.
outdoor area behind that you're not seeing.
Okay, so,
We
yeah.
own the property next to it, so that back area will be.
So that back area
to us
is,
personal.
is gonna be your
Private
personal area as a residence.
Correct.
So it's not
And that's really what
commercial.
I'm worried about.
Okay, it's not commercial, it's gonna be a resident, I wanna make that clear in my
Yep.
mind and everybody else's too, so. You're looking at a patio and things, so you're looking at the fence for more privacy and security for that patio area.
Correct.
Okay,
So you have an entryway into the house on the
Yep.
first floor,
Yep.
and then another
Entry.
entryway into the patio?
Yeah, it's the exact same storefront, exact same door that goes all the way through and faces. the
Okay,
back.
so it's,
Yeah,
okay,
so you
no
go, there's a
bedrooms
door
down
underneath the stairs that you can see, and then you can go
Okay,
to the back area.
thank you.
and as I recall previously, there is a doorway for that back into the alley, but it was something that you'd be able to prove.
I haven't gotten there yet, whether we want to put a door, we're not sure we're gonna put a door on that fence or not.
A gate, like to
Okay,
get
yeah,
outside?
Yeah,
Alright.
but it'd be locked, we
But
wouldn't,
gate-
I wouldn't
Is
do
that-
we wouldn't go in and out of it,
Right,
but
Is fire have a say in that?
yeah, there's
It's not a
fire, cause there's
fire code
meters and
violation.
things back
It's
there,
not.
and there's
It's not.
other things that's.
It means
I
of
think-
egress are getting to the
wouldn't-
outside, but it means of egress won't be stopped for that.
what's that?
Your means of egress to come from your place outside would be okay. You wouldn't necessarily have to have an exit from your gate.
Yeah,
It'd be a
and
good
most-
idea, but you don't have to.
Most of it would be for us, is this,
Right.
if you try to get something in the back area, now suddenly you have no way to get back in there to even bring,
Right.
okay, you're gonna bring mulch in, you're gonna bring something, heavy, something, rocks and that sort of thing, and so we'll probably have to do something, but it would definitely not be something that we would use as a egress at all.
I'm not too worried about ingress egress, but like I said, there are some meters for another building and things back there, so I think there'd have to be access for that.
Oh, right.
We got 'em enclosed.
And also, there's was talk about the other fence as far as tying that in and things.
That will completely, that fence will completely,
But they're
So
not.
the existing fence
Will go
that's
away.
on the adjoining property would go away, and then you would replace it all, so it would be like kind.
yeah, I already talked to the neighbor and
Okay.
said, hey,
I mean, the
That's
picture you showed there on the.
Yeah,
it's in bad shape now, and said, hey, look, we'll take care of it, and we'll replace it all to make it, just make aesthetically a little more pleasing.
yeah, there's the back and, okay.
Any more questions, Charlie?
Well, if you have, all your meters and stuff are outside of that fence, correct?
Nah, you can barely see it, but they're right here. They're right on the side.
That's not our.
That's not theirs.
That
All
is-
ours are on Pratt Street.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
ours
Yeah,
are on
but
Pratt
this-
Street.
right.
This is the property, this is
Right,
not our,
But they'd have to have access to that.
They do have access, right next to the meter, there's a man door.
Oh,
that goes
okay.
in
Yeah.
that, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be access from the front.
Yeah, whether yours or
It
not,
would
they
be
still need
access from the
access.
side of 64.
our property line, just so
Oh,
we're
okay.
clear, our
All right.
property line is not here, our property line is here.
Okay.
So that's kind of their, we'll provide access, but
Okay.
that's on our neighbors, those meters are
Yeah.
our neighbors.
Well, I mean, as long as you just, there has to be access to it,
Yeah, of
and so
course.
that's to be worked out, that's fine, I'm not trying to get into that granularity, I just,
Extra
as long
fat
as you know it's there, they got access to it, fine.
Yeah.
You'd have to provide access to the utility companies to get to them.
They will be able to
Yeah,
get
if you
it.
do that, then you're good.
Yep.
Shoot, they read that stuff from,
Right.
they can read that from a long way
They
away now.
can sometimes, yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
the corner
you know,
is
the
just
daggone
becoming
Water in-
very
I mean, water in
Some of the
Columbus
roof's got some
doesn't even come out anymore.
I know.
Probably from
I know.
demolition is what it looked like. but-
The co-op,
So you take care of that as well.
the meter that we want them
Yeah.
in Concord East, because they said we don't got access, that's bullshit.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and take public comment on it again. Thank you. Any public comment on this? Go ahead, Louis.
You sure make it look better.
Get that in the minutes.
He didn't stand up?
Louis Main on Main Street. All right. Any other questions from anybody?
No, sir.
Anything else from staff? Okay. We'll go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance application as written.
I'll second it.
All right. Chairman Green,
No.
Walter Robb,
Yes.
Steve Dyer,
Yes.
Charlie Campbell,
Yes.
Jesse Couple.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. You'll be able to talk to staff and you'll be able to get that done.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, we have the fun part. So keep in mind, anybody who wants to stay, the next hour or so is gonna get pretty dry.
Can I leave?
So we're gonna move on to ordinances, amending zoning. Louis, if you wanna hang out, I think you might like this part.
He's
And,
excited.
thank you for coming to anyone heading out.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so ordinance XX 2022. This is GCC 1. We also have GCC 2, because I know we wanted to look at those together.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we have? Who has any? Let me open this up.
This is crazy, but I like what Mr. Rainey brought to attention. Read the purpose for the village commercial district, or read the purpose for GCC 1. I'm just curious what people think.
You want to answer hard questions.
It's almost like what we're going for. I have it here, if somebody'd like to read it.
Yeah,
You're talking about village commercial,
Yeah.
yeah.
and what was the other one?
What's the other one? It's VC and VC. What are they? The
Oh, you're gonna make me do some research.
village commercial and village,
Yeah, there's two VCs,
village center, village
commercial,
commercial.
Village Center and Village Commercial.
So can we make a motion to update downtown to the VC?
Well, read it, tell me what you think. I don't know, I read that purpose and I'm like,
Let me
that
get
feels
this
like
open
everything
here.
we're going for. I'm not trying to create more work, but
Well, you got. Well, the fun part about all this is we spent 2 years plus talking about all of it and then we scrapped it. And then, I mean, whatever time, so this has been talked about like 6 different times.
Okay.
And then we're gonna redo our whole comp plan and then we're gonna talk about it again.
Yeah,
So this is, I'm just telling you, a lot of what we're doing right now is meant to be stopgap measures for, to get us through until then.
so, okay, until we revisit it again.
But
Right.
it's hard to, because GCC 1 is such a broad area that includes downtown, it includes my house.
It does.
It's hard to make provisions that protect the downtown without differentiating that as a separate zone as intended with the VC. So I'm all on board on just rezoning downtown VC.
Louis, what was the point of the downtown, what's that? What are we looking at?
Ask Sean.
Oh, ask Sean?
That's Sean.
No, I'm asking you because I think you know. But the point of GCC 1 going all the way down and covering all those houses down through there, all the way to
The
Jersey.
original zoning
Yeah,
was cut out from was, I think, Pratt.
Okay.
No, next one down was college, maybe college, up to, where the rec center used to be.
Maple.
Maple up there,
thank
yeah.
you. And anybody
Rec
that
center.
was in that area that had a site of any commercial, it was made commercial, such as the house that Steve lives in. Glassmaker lived there. Then it became a bed and breakfast. Across the street, there was an attorney. Then look on down the street, there's other businesses with, the theater, then it's Ohio Filling Station, a a funeral parlor. So that whole area was just encompassed into that commercial group.
Okay. But
Now-
you have all the way down to Jersey that's GCC one. So you're just saying they created the GCC one
Well, that
because
is a
you
good
wanted to
point,
have.
because even that White House, with the fireman's decorations
And
out
it
front,
goes
that
goes
used to
back
be-
too.
That house with the fake fire hose and stuff out front, that used to be a business too back in the day.
It was tech.
That was the original Tech Rubber.
Yeah.
Tech rubber, you're right.
That was his home, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, and like I get on Main Street, if you have a house and you want to have a business out of it, like that makes sense, especially back when they did it because a business was not going to be a massive conglomerate. It was going to be something you ran out of your house and you're going to keep it clean because you wanted to be nice in the community. But now we have to watch because if a business comes in there, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah,
And you don't want to see,
I'd like to add something. I talked to Jesse, I think
Yeah.
in India about this not too long ago, because they had the same question, why are we GC? Well, it's kind of, looking across the country, Main Street was where the business was at. Before you had shopping centers and malls and all that, Main Street. So the idea was, okay, business, the core was right there in the center of town, and the core would be growing
As your town
growing Main
expanded.
Street.
Yeah.
So, it was probably very forward thinking when they
Yeah.
expanded that, because it made sense. It's like Louis said, we used to have we had a funeral home where K-Seps was at.
Yeah.
That's 50 years ago when I moved here. And so, it made sense, but maybe now it doesn't make sense anymore. So,
Remember, the zoning was set in place in 1973.
so when that was turned into, when that was created, most of those houses were there. So they were fine with tearing down
Everything was
downtown.
there.
They were fine with losing those houses to make them business.
Everything was there, and there was some form of business in that general area,
Okay.
so they just went to street.
So we've already determined that we can't change the zoning of all those houses that are currently GCC one.
Unless you got all of the property owners to sign off.
But we could change, so if we want to make different rules for the downtown area, which I think we can all say we probably should, right? Then we need to change that from GCC one to VC. Then we can make rules like,
See, one of the big
Transient.
things going to VC is restoration and preservation of the structures.
Right.
And this came about, both those came about with Jim Leonard. That was his thinking. And there was valid thinking to it.
we went through those VC codes last year.
We did, because if you look at them in design review, they're there.
Yeah,
And
we have some places.
That's what I mean, like, we had
legally
planned,
zoned VC.
we had planned to go that
If you
route.
go where the Johnstown Point Nursing Home is, 2 houses on each side on West Coshocton Street are zoned
They're Sean's,
VC.
aren't they?
Sean has property that's been zoned.
I was saying, Sean's got one over there,
Yeah,
at
he
least.
does.
On
What's it
one
zoned?
side of the nursing
Sportsman
home.
Club, you're on
Yeah.
the corner, there's VC.
Well, I'm ready to
Village
pull.
Center.
That one might be GCC one.
That was rezoned though, I think, to residential. Was it, Sean?
Which one?
The one on the corner that was the
Showing
doctor's
everything.
office went
Showing
back,
VC.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
That
Doesn't matter what we
there
think.
was rezoned.
The new map
Commercial.
Louis has has some updates.
See, I said this was gonna get dry. I was in
This map that's showing VC there.
There's two places that VC's been enacted.
Charlie wants to go home.
One was the rec
I
center.
know it's June 2017, that's the
Well,
best
that's
I can.
Yeah, he's still got another hour.
Bowling alley, swimming
Year
pool,
2012 with that, this is
And
20.
that
That's what it says under there.
Now, wait a minute,
That's
Firefighter, buddy.
That's village center.
Windows.
and then there's
Hang on, let's get back on track here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
West Coshocton.
That's village commercial.
All right, so what do we think about that?
Before we descend into chaos here, and I appreciate the historical perspective, because I've wanted to know why they did that. But, so yeah, I think the VC downtown, I mean, we were headed there anyway, when we were going through zoning, so I think that's fine.
What does Sean think?
So what I've been trying to do in my silence is pull up all the information that you guys are throwing at me.
Yeah.
So that requires me to pull up about 8,000 different maps. 8,000 different windows open right now. Let me know where the first question you want answered, but what I can try to do is walk you through some of this.
That's how this point of the zoning meeting goes. There's
Well,
a lot of
I was
windows open, there's some music playing somewhere.
Trying to set the table
There's
inside the
Charlie
computer.
sneaks out.
And
And I know I barely hated us.
Teresa searching Indeed as we speak.
I didn't have my visual aids prepared because I didn't know
So,
this would be the
no.
area that the conversation would go.
Yeah,
So I'm quickly doing my homework.
We get, we like a group atmosphere here, so we get a bit conversational at this point.
All right, are we diving too far in this? I brought this up. I kind of want to see what you guys think. Are we going too far? Should we stop? Should we, what do you guys think? Is this worth?
I think it might be something that we leave.
All right, here's,
It's not gonna be anything that if a business comes to town today, it's gonna affect. I think that's kind of where we were headed when going through our zoning. We kind of wanted to make sure, okay, we know that we're gonna redo all this after the comp plan and we work with MKSK. So let's at least make sure that if there's holes, we fix those holes.
So you want to continue on our path and not this one?
Yeah, well, unless we think there's holes there that this might fix.
and I think that,
Yes and no.
I think that.
Because right now, we're stopping the holes. If somebody comes in here tomorrow, and they could.
Well, the problem
you
is
know.
someone did come in here today with a plan for like a transient thing that we could have prevented.
I agree.
And.
And our
so-
current zoning doesn't
so-
do a bad job of
No, I don't disagree
that,
with you.
but-
Here's my proposal though, Steve, is that I like the idea of pushing through VC, but I think that we should table it till at least next meeting to give Sean and I some time.
I think I'm ready now.
Oh, are
I
you?
was working hard.
You were.
I can give you a conversation on it.
Well, let's,
If you want.
I mean, in my
Well, I
mind,
want to know what the group wants to do.
in my mind, I'm ready to go. Let's
Well,
delineate the
I mean, I've
parcels
been
that we
ready to
think-
overhaul zoning the last 2 years. I tried to do it. So, I mean, I'm there with you.
I wasn't going to talk about overhaul. I was just
Yeah.
going to give you context and background information to see where you wanted to navigate this ship or train or whatever device that's going to get crashed into something's going to go. So
A metaphor?
We identify the parcels as just that block, just that Main Street block on each side.
let's back it up even further. So let's go all the way back to Louis' original comment. You got Village Commercial District, and you also have Village Center District. Is that what you were referencing, Louis?
Got two of them.
Yes.
We don't need two, right? Do we need two in your mind? Do we need two in your
Let
mind?
Sean finish.
Yes and no. You don't.
Yeah, they're almost identical.
Yes, and so you have 1167 Village Center District, and then you also have Village Commercial District. So let's do a little fun practice here.
This is fun.
When this was adopted was in 2016. So that was 2016. That's that first one. Let's go down to 1169. That was adopted in 2013. So where you will find this is important as far as timelines go, anytime you do any type of rezoning, not any, but most times you do any type of rezoning, you have to reference your future land use map.
Right.
So then we have to go back in time for our past future land use maps. So you put on your future land use map, for instance, Village Commercial. Then it's on the future land use map. You make a district. Said applicant or property owner wants to come in and says, I want to get rezoned, I want this to happen, and you have it on your future land use map, it supports it, you go ahead and approve it. So this one is your most recent. Let me find how many windows. Oh, I've got a lot open. Okay, so this one was passed in 2012. Now, if you'll notice, it has village commercial on it. Hence why the district was made in 2013. If this was the future land use map in 2012, then it goes back to, we need a map to represent the rezoning of that. And then you can also see the districts that it would change. So to your point, Jesse, where this all starting to come around is your areas that are village commercial. So this is obviously not your GCC 1 district now. It's very similar, but not exactly. You could even go and tighten this up a little bit more, but your future land use map is your guiding principle. You put that in place first, and then you backfill kind of the verbiage with everything else. So there's a lot of uses that we had in here. So you got senior living, which was down here, but we didn't put it here. You've got village office, which was, we never incorporated, and we don't even have it on the books.
What's Track Street over there?
Track Street, that's the light manufacturer. We did a MF, what was multi, okay, so that's multifamily, which was always multifamily. This was all light manufacturing, and that didn't get messed with in the future land use map. So then you fast forward into this future land use map, and it looks a little bit different.
That, what year?
This is 2020.
This is
We
20.
went from
Okay.
2012 to 2020 now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
We're very good.
yeah, we're getting there, let's see. We'll
Louis, were you involved with the 2012 map? Were you involved with the 2012 map? The future land use map? No? Okay.
So
It
then,
was finished up, I think, Sean, in about June of 2012,
the first one?
the 2012
So
map.
you were, Sean, you were in that one.
I was in that one. and
You were in
that's-
that one.
That's why we
Okay.
went ahead and did the village commercial district,
Yeah.
because we could navigate it with the future land use map, the idea that if you did change it all, it would go into that whole fail
Yeah.
swoop. Then you fast forward to 2020, and you have these pretty blue colors. This is the future land use map. And then we have central business, which we don't even have. So, not sure why that was put in there, why they wouldn't have just went back to one we already have it on the books. So, that's the procedure of how things go. You typically go from your future land use map, you identify certain things on there, and then you change the zoning. So that gives you back
I see why you
to,
explained it.
all the way back to 2013, and then 2016. I cannot remember, for the life of me, why we put
One more
in
tab.
two different districts.
Sean, if I recall, Village Center was supposed to be a term that we were going to consider using for an overlay district for historical. I believe that's why
Okay.
we ended up with Village Center versus Village Commercial.
And that could be, I can't remember, that would be a long request for meeting minutes from far, far long ago. So that's village commercial.
Can
This
I,
was
can I make one, can we get one point of clarification, because I'm still not clear on this? The mechanics of changing the zoning of a property, can we pass an ordinance, or can council pass an ordinance that changes the zoning of a district? Because I'm still unclear. Like, I thought we said yes, but then I thought we said no.
That's a great question, Jesse. I'm not going to do it justice, because I'm not an attorney, but this is definitely a Yaz attorney situation. I will try to give you a little bit of background from what I remember the conversations going to. And that is, you have to be very, very careful.
You can't change the permitted uses on it.
You can, but like I said, you have to be very careful procedurally. And there is a lot of energy and time that's expended on doing the process properly. It is a very difficult task to do, because you dance in the realms of a taking, is what it's called. If you devalue the property in a way that doesn't allow for continuing use, and you can dance a little bit in that segment with what we're doing here with some minor changes, or even some larger changes, you're probably gonna be okay. Once you start literally redoing an entire district and renaming it, you can. However, it is you need to have an attorney advise you in the proper steps, because one messed up step along the way, and you're gonna have issues. That's why if you put it in the future land use map, you allow for the applicant to make the zoning request. That's a home run. That's good to go. But then the only disadvantage is you have multiple zoning classifications in that district if everybody doesn't adopt it. So that's as far as I know. That's gonna be a Yaz or Todd Boggs that was in here last time. He can dance and get you that all the way from start to finish. But how much time do you want to put on that? So instead of doing that, maybe a concept would be, if you like VC, start navigating that GCC1 district in the terminology more towards that. I would caution you to do it all at once, just because I don't know the legalities of it and everything else, but.
And they want to change the boundaries.
Yeah, and then you gotta change the boundaries. You're talking about changing boundaries. That one I can definitely tell you is a bigger situation. Like you mentioned, there's residential houses that sit in the commercial and you wanna shrink that. Oh my golly, I'm not even sure that that's a navigable one, because then you are doing a taking. You are taking a commercial use all the way down to a residential, rather than
Well,
just.
no, I'm not talking about
Right.
touching GCC1 because I
Right.
think we decided that was legally impossible. But if
Not
you
impossible.
change-
It's not
impossible,
but if
you just have
change-
to get the homeowners on
My
board.
thought is, yeah, it's a serious undertaking. That
It is a very big undertaking.
But my thought was, if you change the name of the downtown district from GCC1 to VC, whatever, then you wouldn't have to change any of the applicable laws immediately, but you could sort of craft the downtown rules around preservation, more historic things, which I think is important. And obviously, I don't think it's something we're gonna do tonight, because we would some thought would have to be put into exactly what parcels. But in my mind, that would be legally feasible, because you wouldn't necessarily be making any changes to it wouldn't be a taking, because you're just changing the name only for those parcels at first, right?
It would be a great attorney question. I'm not gonna pretend.
And that's just my thoughts, and you guys may have different thoughts, but right now, the GCC1 is a large area, and it's hard to make different rules for the downtown area than it is, because they're all gotta be generally applicable to all GCC1.
So your GCC1 maybe.
In the preservation area.
Yeah.
And that's what I want, is I want a separate, an area for the downtown, whatever.
You
Might
can
be
do
able
a
to
district.
Overlay.
You can do a district overlay. I think at one time there was one. Sarah Phillips did something to that effect. I don't know that it's there anymore. These are all research questions. I would probably argue whether it's there or it isn't there, you just say, hey, somebody needs to clean this up, and you have them start the task from scratch, which means you go back, you find out what you have, you get rid of whatever you had, and then you start anew and get you something that is workable, tangible. So as far as your GCC1 district, it may not be as expansive as this, if you believe, and that's just me talking out loud. It's really just your downtown district, a little bit over here, but in the entirety of Johnstown, it doesn't go really outside of these blocks that exist in your original downtown. Now, are some of them residential? Absolutely. But if you're looking for a district that represents your downtown area, this is probably not all bad. Obviously not great, but not all bad. This isn't GCC1 out here. It's not out here. It's not over here. It's not over here. It is literally just in your little downtown area. So.
And that one space right next to it.
Yeah, right there. That little guy. So, I don't know.
Does that make sense now, Steve?
What we may want to consider is maybe having like a workshop with the lawyer and see, float some of these ideas, do some of it ahead of time, but see
And I think
what we can and can't do, so we don't, you spent 2 years on things and it's not usable in its current form.
And I
don't want to go
inherited
down.
that project.
Yeah.
It was like a 5-year project.
Right, I understand that. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I want to get something that we can use. I realize we got some stop gaps we gotta do,
And I think that was
But I
our
think-
original plan with this, is to fill the holes, and then after MKSK goes through things, we take a look with council, then we come back and we make everything match that. Cause that way we know, we have a guiding light, we know where we're headed, we make all this match that.
But as MKSK, does they know about what we want for downtown
They
district?
will, there's gonna be a lot of
Okay, so-
feedback and meetings and.
I agree with that. So what that means for tonight is we're gonna continue as planned.
And so I'll put the urgency back on where we're at tonight. So in a perfect world, I hear what everybody's saying. Let's get a nice, pretty district and let's have it in a historic way and everything else, which is really, really great thoughts. We'll get there. And it may not be this year, but it may be in 5 years. And I can tell you just from looking at other municipalities, they plugged the gaps first, they got things started, and then 5, 6 years down the road, they kind of went back and started tackling things as they got the ship from taking on water. We need to stop the ship from taking on water, so I'll bring it back to
Okay,
where we're
so
at
that was
currently,
my
GCC 1
question, so-
and GCC 2. So if you have an applicant, let's just say Chase Bank, just hypothetically, wants to build right here, hypothetically, and that's GCC 2. Are you okay with the current GCC 2 guidelines that are in place?
Right.
Because if we want to go ahead and try to do all the other stuff, which I think is really great, that's going to take a long, long time. If we're just trying to get our current code to where, for instance, the new buildings that may be going in at 37 and 62, let's just say there's a building going in there. Are we happy with the guidelines that we had in place? Do we wish we had more green space?
Okay, yeah, okay, that was my question.
Yes.
And that answers it.
So this is to
So
get
let's
us
do
where we
this.
need to be.
And then we'll talk about this other thing.
The other stuff's a
5 years.
way bigger one. Well, you talk about it now, but it's a 5-year plan.
I know, I agree.
This is the, let's get green space, let's get setbacks, let's get
Okay.
some different,
Yeah.
let's not allow.
Stop
for
it from
certain
getting
types of
worse.
uses.
I'm on board.
All right.
And that was my question.
Cool. We're with you though,
Okay,
in the long term.
okay. So what's the difference between medical offices and the, what does it say, human medical clinics? Are those two different things?
We're gonna have to do references like to I, to.
Two I, and then, what is it?
This is our second time through this.
C,
I don't know, man.
Six.
Maybe it's like the fourth.
Human medical clinics, that's, and this is why I leave things incomplete, because I know you guys wanna have comments. So I leave some specific things in here for you to scratch, so you pick that.
are they the same thing?
There are some times that I will do that because
If he's in GC.
they're very similar. So yeah, I would recommend scratching one or the other.
You want mine? I don't know.
One is in a, yeah, I think you can simplify it a little bit. I gotta leave stuff for
Medical
you guys to
offices,
scratch, or
medical
else you're gonna
offices
scratch
related.
good stuff.
I like the two I.
What's the password?
Okay, so we'll take out
Oh.
the C.
I think it's just you and I talking.
That's all right.
I hear you, I'm listening.
So you wanna take out human medical clinics. I have no idea what that is.
I can Google it, but
It's not. May
Okay.
get some really weird. Can.
the Wi-Fi won't let me.
All right, so we're gonna edit human medical clinics. All right, we're gonna take that out. Any other?
Was daycare still on there?
What's the password?
Yeah, I looked up other cities and they're all,
What's that?
What's the
other cities have daycares, like in their, what is our GCC
What's
one
the
area, but
password in here?
it's always on the outside.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah, if you
Like,
want
it's
to text it to me.
always, it's never in the main strip. So if you look at Dublin, you look at Granville.
On guest.
That's what
I think you would leave it in there, but I think it's naturally gonna find
Oh,
itself.
admin lots,
Is
the one I need to get on.
daycare conditional use
Okay.
on there?
No,
I think we should move daycare to conditional because I think Steve's right that that has a lot of bearing on location. So, you know, if it was off of Main Street, that it might fit in better in the community.
Oh, hold on. I got a council member that's angry, says, answer my text or I'm gonna kill you. No, he didn't say that.
Well, put us to the side here.
I'm sorry, I value my life. Unless you want a council member to come up here, which maybe you do.
You got a council member here right now.
Exactly. Do you want
don't
more than one
another
council
We
member in the
don't-
room?
We don't want another one.
forward that text to me.
But, so but you guys,
So what I looked up,
Internet.
So I looked up for daycares is that they are in the areas.
Yeah.
But, and they're kind of naturally moved. If you look up each city cities that I like, they're not on the main, they're just kind of in the outlying areas of what is considered our GCC one. And I don't know if that just happens naturally.
Yeah, I think they kind of get in where they can, but it's a good one to talk about because I am trying to get more daycares in
They
Johnstown.
like to be where it's really convenient for drop off and pick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they want to be able to get right up to a door.
Because I agree with Jesse, I don't want them on the main street, but I think it's naturally going to occur that way, but
So we'll just
I'm not an expert.
item D out, nursery schools and daycare facilities. And I know Jesse had mentioned putting it as conditional, but I think it's probably more appropriate in the GCC2 district. I'll leave it I can add it to the GCC2 district, which is more on your outlying, or I can add it as a conditional use in the GCC2 district.
There's not a great place in GCC one to have a daycare. Like, I mean, if you look at the map, I don't think there's an amazing place you'd want to.
Well, the church,
Not that it's-
the
not
church
that it's-
has
well,
one.
oh, that's
There is a
right, that's
church
right.
That has one in there. So, and if
Is
there
it
was
a daycare or
another,
preschool?
if another church wanted
I was
to have one
thinking
in
build
there,
it, like if you built one,
if another church
Yeah.
I think
exists
Jesse
in
might
there,
start one.
it would probably fit, but
Jesse's got one at his
Jesse's
house.
that's, I don't want one next door.
It's also going to create more traffic in the morning of people coming in
Yeah.
and leaving versus.
I don't
on
think there's, the
outside.
church is good, but I'm saying like if somebody were to come in and build a new one,
Yeah, but that's preschool.
Yeah, churches, it would not be considered
You have
nursery
the
or
one by the
daycare. That is a
library.
preschool.
that's not in
That's not
GCC
a-
one though.
That's not
So preschool doesn't fit the term as daycare.
I would argue
Yeah.
probably not. No, that's a school
No.
It's actually
set
a
up.
school.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one by Leafy Dell is what?
So that one is a non-conforming.
That's in light manufacturing?
Probably.
Well, I'm just going gray. off
No,
of that.
so it's in a residential area, so it's a non-conforming. If that were to ever shut down for more
Never
than
come
2
back.
years, they would have to come before the board in order for them
Yeah.
to get an application for them to reopen.
Okay.
That's how it happened with the nursing home. The nursing home that was there no longer can be used as a nursing home. It would have to come back before this board because it sits in a residentially zoned area. So
Exactly.
All right, well, I guess we move down to GCC two.
I think.
What about theaters? Sorry.
Jesse wanted me to add that. in
Okay, I'm curious.
GCC1. So I serve at your leisure.
If, my thought was if we had something in the downtown district that wanted to be a performing arts
Like
theater. or
the
something
Opera
like that.
House or the
Yeah.
current movie theater that's now a drive-through?
Yeah, or just any of the second floor stuff, like, hey, I don't know that it will happen, but it'd be cool to have it.
I'm okay with that.
Fair enough.
We already have the Opera House.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Glamour Shots is down there.
Glamour shot. What? That was a good.
Commercial photography.
Where's that one?
Jesse's fault.
So are we in GCC2 now?
Take a note.
I'm gonna give you a chance on GCT one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What do you have on GCC one?
Oh, Machine Gun Kelly.
What is that? D, I guess, A, B, C. C2, banks, you're taking out, excluding drive-through facilities?
Yeah, we
You aren't
argued.
going to get a bank that doesn't have a drive-through facility.
So the drive-through, banks with a drive-through facility is in a conditional use. So it would be allowed, but then if they had a drive-through, which most of them would, they would have to come in for a
We
conditional.
made it a conditional use, Louis, just because we want to make, the site is gonna depend on
gotta flow with
whether it's feasible or not.
Okay, then do you need it twice? Do you need it in, C2 also?
Well, we want to allow them the option to be in either district, right? Because there's those are two separate districts, so we're
No.
making,
There's no GCC one.
Yeah, he's talking about in one.
oh, it's twice in
Well,
one.
it is. One is, so banks, savings and loans, credit agencies, but not including establishments with drive-through. So
So
if they just had a bank,
A non-drive-through one can be anywhere, but a drive-through one has to be conditional,
Correct.
has to come in for
And that's why
additional
it's
site
listed
approval.
twice.
Does that make sense?
Well, you've got banks, in both places here. One's conditional and one,
Well, just the drive-through's conditional.
Yeah, banks with drive-through is the conditional use, but if they don't have one, then it's allowed in the
So a bank can go
GCC one.
anywhere in GCC one,
But if it has a drive-through, then it's a conditional. So we
Yeah.
we talked about this extensively last meeting.
Yeah.
And we do have it on there twice on purpose, because one's with the drive-through and one's
That's
without.
confusing. AMA applicant's gonna be confused.
We didn't want any more drive-throughs in GC.
Yeah, it's just us trying to make sure all the bases are covered.
Now, the other question I have, is just like the permit you had tonight, you're scratching, out of here, where'd it go? Where'd it go?
Transient hotels. We scratched that out.
Back a page.
Did we scratch that out?
I
don't think we did.
Transients, it'll be added if it is. It wasn't uploaded on the draft yet because it hadn't made it to the web, so I'll add it back in.
I don't really, you want to scratch it out, do you?
Transient and hotels?
There,
No, it wasn't
under
included.
conditional use, you're removing second story and multifamily and single-family dwelling units located in commercial structures. So you just made almost everyone downtown non-conforming.
What does it say again? Say it again.
He's saying you're taking out multifamily.
1155.03, and then he's talking about
Replaced with
item
B.
B, which scratched out.
Yeah.
So Page 35.
So you're saying,
Second story
item B, second story multifamily and single-family dwelling units located in commercial structures. What that got replaced with was multi-family located on the second level or higher of a structure and a single-family unit in accordance with SR1 requirements. So that got replaced.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
if you look
We
at
made it more
red and B,
stringent.
he replaced
Yeah.
it
And
with
the
that.
reason I did that
Yeah.
is
Yep.
you can't,
He gave it to us.
you
He gave
can't
it to us.
delineate commercial structure. Like, you
Right.
can take a commercial structure and make it into a residential use. So I don't know why the wording was done that way, but it won't hold up in court. And I get the intent and the use, what you guys wanted, but it wasn't worded in a way that was enforceable.
Okay.
It's gotta be a commercial structure. Well, there's a lot of commercial uses that reside in residential houses. Doctors all along Main Street, 37, 62. So these are just examples anyhow. Won't bore you with it. That's what it is.
Do you really want that to be SR1? I'm asking that because that's low density. And it's also, if you take a look at it, low density, single-family residential uses with lot size sufficient for individual water and sewer facilities. That's family use. I mean, you know,
I think we were talking more about the square footage.
right, that's what I'm
Type
looking
thing,
at.
though.
I mean, you go upstairs, just like the one he just talked about tonight, okay?
Yeah.
If you go upstairs there, one bedroom is what you're gonna get. It's not gonna be technically single family. It's gonna be single person, okay? Like that. That's what I look
You're
at.
talking about it's only gonna be able to house a studio apartment.
Right,
Okay.
you know, and
So are you talking about multifamily or are you talking about single family?
and a single family is what it says.
Yeah, so single family, it would have to
Right.
comply with the SR1 requirements.
Yeah.
You're saying the SR1 is,
He's saying the building won't allow for that.
Right, the building won't allow it.
In certain buildings downtown, he's saying that SR1 requirements wouldn't fly.
Well,
that would be a multifamily though.
But we don't want a single-family unit being built downtown. But, for example, this would allow, like, the lot beside me is is
Oh, yeah, that's right.
GCC1, and it goes all the way back. So Travis could technically split that lot now and build a single-family home behind there that meets GCC1 requirements. And that's why I was pushing to scratch the residential part completely.
Steve can do that right now, right behind you.
He can do a single family, but
Yeah.
he wants to do a double.
But if you have to comply with the SR1 requirements, your lot size is the largest that we have from a
Yeah.
requirement standpoint. So
And-
it would be harder to split lots up in the GCC1 area
Yeah.
to comply with the SR1 requirements, if that makes sense.
Our goal with this was to make it harder on multifamily in that area.
So the multifamily can still exist, and that doesn't have to meet the SR1 requirements. It's just saying if you build a single-family home, that it has to
you hear that?
comply with the single
Does it
SR1
allow you to build
multifamily-
multifamily just on the second
Yeah.
floor though, right?
It can still have multi.
of a, yes, just on the second floor.
So you could have a
Second
three-story-
level or higher.
You could have a
structure.
three-story building with
second, and third stories.
Yep. There's no good way to slice the multifamily.
Why don't we just remove the single-family home reference and let them build on the second and third floor? I like that part.
Yeah, but
You
then
want to
that,
allow multifamily on the second and third floor? What if somebody,
No, I'm not saying I'm good with that part, but just to remove the single-family home one part.
so not allow for single-family units
Because
to
we're-
exist in the
if we're trying
GCC
to-
one?
Yeah, if we're trying to make that a commercial district.
You're a single-family home.
but
in
how's that
GCC
gonna
one.
do in,
So am I.
so now you're looking
Yeah,
at that.
too.
Now you just got done, we talked about having an overlay of,
Can't demolish my house.
I'm gonna call it, your overlay of the
Village
GCC
center.
one, the village center.
Well, you could.
So if that would fall into GCC one with the SR one
Tornado took it out.
to it, then you said this second floor up, how high up you gonna let them go?
Took it out.
But I
Like
could
if you
demolish
tore
it.
it
Talk
down,
about,
did it.
I'm trying to follow what you said, in GCC one, which is basically downtown right now.
correct.
Okay, and then you said we could put an overlay over that,
Yep.
which would give you into your VC, okay? I get there. So if we're talking about this, and Jesse just said, well, we could build from the second floor up. Well, that's gonna take away from that value. I mean, you're not gonna have the downtown looking like it does. We're gonna start building second story, a third, a fourth story. So
You got a height-
we're really.
We have a height
You
limit
have a
though.
height, you have a height limit that you wouldn't be able to build.
We have what, it's like 50.
And they would have to come before design review.
35, yeah, because,
Yeah, but
48 now.
what
Yeah,
you're just
38,
saying
yeah.
is,
48.
that's what I was gonna say, 50 is what I thought it was, but.
why are we saying you can come, you gotta come back to zoning to get it done? Why isn't it set so that this is how it is? Coming back to zoning, you said, well, they have to come back to zoning to get a permit to do that. That's what we said. So I don't understand why we don't leave it like, I mean, basically speaking, what you see is what you get. If you wanna keep it like a BC. I mean, if you don't wanna keep it that way and you wanna let people try to build higher, then that's okay. But if you're not gonna let people build higher, then why are we having this stuff in here? I'm just asking.
You're talking about a third story?
Right,
We're letting people build higher.
huh?
Yeah, we're letting people build
But
higher.
I thought
50 feet.
then that takes away from what you're doing with your downtown.
Right.
I mean, you just got done saying you wanna leave it like it is, but now I'm gonna come in and put a third story on one of the buildings.
It's all up to what you want.
I mean, where you wanna keep it? I'm just trying to
No,
see
what
where
I-
you wanna keep
Yeah,
it.
but back to what we were doing earlier, we're trying to clean this up first, and then we're gonna come back and try and do the second.
Well, so the reason I put it, I think the issue that you have is with it could be second level or higher. So
Right.
currently, we don't have any, so the or higher is the part that's giving people heartburn. I think there could be an ability, God, it's on YouTube, there's just no way to say this. As your downtown starts to grow over the next 20 to 30 years, don't think of it as just being that block from
Right.
62 to Pratt.
Okay.
You could very well have new buildings that take on old architecture that crop up and are built along the way.
Someone could
Grove
tear down
City
my house
today would
and-
be a
and
good example of
combine
that.
it- My house.
See what happened there today?
Clear it out.
Oh, look
and
it
make
up.
some, and make it like a
It-
first
it's
story
that.
commercial, second story, third story residential, and we would, and through our design review board, hopefully, they make it look sort of old school, so it's continued, the downtown could grow out in the same architectural, that's my vision of
Yeah, I
how
mean,
we allow it.
a good example would have been, let's say the Bell Stores. Let's say it wasn't a gas station that went there. Let's say it was a new structure that went in, and it was a three-story building that had the same architectural, historical features of the other downtown buildings. What you see in Alexandria, they actually have some three-story buildings. Not noticeably different than Johnstown's because it is only an extra story, but they do have a third story that can be incorporated in that. So we also have a height restriction. So let's say that Bell site was converted into a new extension of the old downtown district buildings and allowed for a third story. That's why I put it in there, just as a stopgap. Really, is that gonna happen probably in the next 2 years, 4 years? Probably not. So if you wanna take out or higher, I could totally do that and just put it as a second story. But
I don't have a problem if they go 10 stories. That isn't
Yeah.
my issue is that we wanna keep the, where are we looking at, how we're
Is there a
keeping it.
risk, is there a risk of a downtown building being torn down to make it an extra story?
It'll
Yes.
It'll
Because have
happen.
you been inside of like, well, you know some of those buildings down there. Some of them are
That's
pretty
right.
bad.
And it,
And eventually, one of those is going to
It
get
is.
torn down in the next 10 years.
I tell you
would
what,
say.
people sitting here tonight, just sitting here tonight,
Yeah.
I guarantee you that they are forward thinkers. And I guarantee you, they're looking at their building and saying, hey, what can we do? What would be a better use for this building? Keep the Ghost Rider in there or whatever they have, tear it down and build a 3-story building that I can use commercially on the first. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just looking at what we've been saying all night long. Do we want to keep our downtown looking like?
Well, right now, you get 50 feet though.
Okay,
So right now, you get 50 feet, and then there's in the design review, there's stipulations on how tall your floors can be to get you. Like if you had a 7-foot floor, maybe you could get 3 stories in there.
Yeah.
But right now, you get 50 feet to play with.
right.
So
But I
that
mean,
kind of
that's-
keeps us there.
There again, that's contradicting what we're doing here. You know, I mean, we're starting to look at, we're saying one thing, hey, go ahead, we'll let you tear the building down, we'll let you build a 3-story building because it says we can go or higher, okay? Then you turn right around and you go to design, and design says, no, you're only gonna let you have 50 feet. So now. we're
I'm
beating
fine
each
with
other up,
I'm fine with taking
You know, that's all.
or higher out of there.
Well, yeah, we also, remember, we have some limitations on our fire service.
Right.
We only have, right now, I think with Intel, they're gonna have a 125-foot aerial, but the Quint, for the offset of the Quint, it can't really get you up any higher than 50 feet because you have to offset the truck. You know, Charlie, the distance of the ladder from the truck.
Absolutely.
So that.
Charlie knows exactly what. Yeah, Charlie knows.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think he's correct on that with the 5, but that's here or there, what we're talking about. I mean,
So it's
I just-
confusing to have.
Okay.
You can't really do 3. Can you do 3 with 50 feet?
No, it can do it. It can do it. Third story building.
Depends on what the
It's not gonna
setback
do
is.
4.
So let's move ahead on this. Walter's he has to head out, but we thank you for coming, Walter. Let's move ahead on this though. So are we taking or higher out of there? Is there a legal reason or higher is in there?
Just in case you have a
case.
structure that wants to be
Right.
3-story or higher now.
But I think we've identified 50 feet's our limit right now, so that
Yeah,
takes.
You could have a 3-story.
That's all. I think we
Can you,
should-
like a
My
good
opinion,
I think
yeah.
8-foot ceilings?
Yeah.
I didn't
Are
recognize
you
it at all.
opposed, are you
I mean, you
opposed
got 8
to?
foot, 8 foot, 8 foot, you're at 24 there,
you can
and then
do
you have a
three
flat
stories.
roof,
But
so if
then-
you got a 50, good lord.
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah, I
could
guess if you have a
16
flat roof,
you
yeah.
have 16
yeah,
foot.
That makes sense,
So
yeah.
16, that would give you a 47,
Right.
40, about a 47.
I'm just
foot
looking at
building.
consistency,
16
that's all I'm
high.
looking at.
It's huge.
If we don't,
true.
we're not conflicted. I mean, you know, here we are saying that we say or higher, but now we're gonna say 2-story, but they say 50 feet. So what's or higher? What's or higher mean when
yeah.
design says, you got a guy that comes in here and we say or higher, so he gives you a plan, design comes in and says, no, 50 feet. That's not or higher anymore. We're staying at 2 stories. 50 feet just barely get, because an average story is 15 feet to 18 feet. That's
That would easily be a
in
3-story.
commercial. That's how we,
Yeah.
And Jim says.
That's,
That's why I'm
yeah,
not-
50
Yeah.
feet. you
that's
get
what he's
3
saying,
stories.
that's easily,
yeah.
Yeah.
35 feet was established when we didn't have an aerial or a
yeah.
platform.
Now we have 50, so we're above.
Yeah.
So
And
look
no-
at Alexandria, they've got 3-story.
So I think we can, I think we can agree that there's no, I don't think
Huh?
there's any
Count on
disagreement there.
Johnstown.
either.
And Granville and
Okay.
whoever.
I don't know that there's any harm by leaving it.
I don't think
we're
that
all
there
aboard
is.
that.
Yeah,
Leave
making
that.
them buy an
Leave it.
aerial is too bad
Okay.
for them. Fire department will comply, I mean, you know, will conform, okay, to certain heights. I mean, like in Columbus. You know, we don't have an aerial in the world that's gonna reach the stories we have, but then but you have other things that take that place. You know, separate stairwell, so you get in a stairwell, you can't get hurt. Sprinkler systems, deluge systems, I mean, there's all kinds of systems
Cops.
that take it.
Hey.
That just is, I mean, we're done talking about that, but I'm just
Hey,
saying
those,
that.
they don't have an effect on zoning.
Right.
No, they do, they do,
Send the cops in.
for safety.
That's right.
All right, so
But, all right, so we're leaving it. Okay, so moving on here, guys.
We do have a 48-foot tall building in Johnstown, and that right now existing, the fire department did sign off. on.
Yes.
How tall is the water
All
tower?
right, so on to page 36 here. Do we have anything on 36?
No, sir.
Okay,
What are you on now?
we're on
36.
page 36 of the packet.
Page 36 of the packet.
I don't have page numbers on here.
Really?
What,
Are
in-
you on GCC one? They're still on GCC
oh,
one.
they're still on GCT 1?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
they're in 115504.
I like the landscaping thing you added, it's brilliant.
You did a great job on that part.
I think we're all done with that.
Yep. All right, so that's that one. Now,
GCC two.
it is 8:14. Do we want to continue, or are we bowing out for the night?
Well, I have a question. I want to know why Chip Dutcher's going to sign this. Right here. They're right here.
Ooh, salt.
Right here.
All right,
Rub.
we will,
Rub.
we will cross that bridge in
So
30 days when we come to it.
So the only thing I would say is if you do want to, if there's a lot of stuff in GCC2 you want to tackle, then we table it. But if there isn't, then this would allow GCC1 and GCC2 to get through to council. Because I'll give you another for instance. Let's hypothetically say somebody buys.
I don't think there's a lot in GCC two.
It's,
This is our second reading on GCC two, right? Sean, this is our second reading on GCC.
It's everything that's not in GCC one, basically.
no, sort of. It's been totally reworked. We didn't have really anything last time to present, so I think Bailey threw something together and it's been totally redrafted.
Whatever is allowed in GCC one
Is allowed in GCC two. And then you have the other things that can be allowed. So let's hypothetically, this is in GCC two right here.
GCC 2 is usually
Let's say that's
more
so far.
liberal on the
If
application.
you're gonna be subjective, if somebody submits an application on this particular property tomorrow, they will be under the guidelines and requirements of the
Right.
current GCC two.
That's what we're trying to
So
do.
it's-
I'm trying to push this along. If you see anything on here
I don't know where that is.
that's huge or not, I'd like to kick this to council so that they can get something on the books, because even after they pass it, it takes 30 days from
And
then.
if you think of something else, you can call me and I'll,
Yeah.
Okay.
We've already probably missed the opportunity with this particular site right here, because I know they're gonna submit a COA within the next week. I mean, the conversation that we had with Chase Bank, they are going to submit something, if they haven't already, through the online gov portal.
Great.
And as soon as that COA hits, they're locked into GCC one as it exists right now. So that green space requirement that we just have in there,
6 weeks before anything becomes effective.
right.
got it. So we don't have to adhere any of the green space requirements that we're adopting in this new plan. So that's why there is a level of urgency.
Right.
Do we get everything absolutely right? No, but do we get some, as Ryan puts it,
I can't find anything
Plug
that
some
we
gaps.
think we need
Yeah.
to add it.
I don't either.
Plug in some gaps.
I read it pretty
Yeah.
close.
I'm good with it.
Better than what we had.
it gives you more leeway. I mean, there's a heavier requirement for aesthetics and some limitations.
I mean, zoning
but-
at this point is what? They're 6 years in to revise zoning.
Yeah.
I mean, a major overhaul is about 6 years in at this point.
We go to the Bell Store expansion. Would
Yeah.
you have had to allow that expansion on a new
No.
parcel? No, because it's a non-conforming use and you don't have to allow for
Right.
the expansion of a non-conforming use. So the gasoline station, if this GCC one was implemented 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, you would have had a very much of a different conversation with the
Right.
Bell Store.
Everything's coming. So, and we're
Can't
6
move fast
months-
enough. So.
We're 6 months on MKSK from being maybe
Oh, yeah.
longer than that.
So we're.
So
we're-
6 months at best on MKSK.
Us three are good with it. Are you good with it?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Let's pass
Yeah.
them both. But I'll make a motion. No, Louis.
On GCC two, I got just a couple comments.
Okay.
It has two purposes. Look at the top of the page.
Oh, I can go one of
Oh, well, you
those.
know,
One was a mix of mine and Sean's.
yes.
Okay, second thing is,
I think I read that, but I
point
didn't.
oh one F. Why do we have to have it specify that parking lot is a conditional use, or is an approved use?
In GCC two, honestly, Louis, I wrestled with that one whenever I went through, and I'm totally fine with leaving it or taking it out. Public or private parking areas.
What are you gonna do if Coda comes out here?
That's a bus depot, but they may have a
Yeah,
drop
that's
off.
total.
It's not depot. All they do
Oh,
is
Coda.
people park, the bus pulls in, they get on and go. There's no depot.
Right.
Whatever we have to keep them
Bus
out.
stop.
Where-
Well, I don't know that you're gonna be able to, well,
I think it gives us more latitude to operate and have better definition. I think it puts a better definition on things. I mean, the better we can define things, the more we can identify them in here and make a decision. I don't think it hurts anything having it in. I see what you mean, though. I don't think it hurts
The
anything.
other thing is, I. Why is it a religious exercise facility?
That's a great question.
I think you're misunderstanding
Is that a
it.
YMCA?
No, so it's a
That is a YMCA.
exercising
CrossFit.
the religion. So it's not
It's
a
a cult.
religious
Oh, cult.
exercise facility. It's religious, you're exercising your religious.
That's not the way it's interpreted.
No, I was reading the same thing.
Let's just put religious.
How do they legally define
If you have
that?
a religious facility, it could be different than a religious exercise facility. So if you're exercising your religion, it means probably you're doing your worship, your Sunday, gosh, I'm trying not to get into the
You
whole.
can get married.
Well, I think we would want to say, because there's a big difference
Ceremonial
between a
things.
church
Then move it to
and then a
conditional.
worship center.
Move the conditional.
Or somebody brings in,
good idea.
yeah, move it to conditional, I'm fine with that.
Or a church camp.
But just a religious facility could, if you took out religious exercise facility, it could be anything under the religious
Right.
sector.
Well, the way that is right now is discriminatory.
You're thinking of it as in a physical exercise.
I don't want to discriminate,
I don't
but I
think that's-
also,
You haven't defined it any further than religious.
Well,
You want to see a religious,
Yes, it's.
I'm
That's
gonna,
why I think.
there's got to be a traditional legal
Put in,
definition.
conditional.
Yeah, let's move to conditional.
We just want to keep Our Lady of Blessed Tax Salvation from opening up a party center.
well, I mean,
GCC two,
you could have a religious banquet center that isn't associated with any type of,
you're missing
Can we move it to conditional and then I'm good with it?
hardware stores.
Do you want Leroy Jenkins in here? Okay.
I thought I saw that
Leroy.
in there.
so move this to conditional, all right.
I'll let any legitimate church come in, obviously,
Well,
but
absolutely.
I just don't want like a large event space. You know?
Okay.
I don't want like a large event space that has nothing to do with the church. That's
Well, I think that's what.
just there to
if
make
we move it to
money.
Conditional, that gives us.
Like
a
that's
lot-
totally
we can-
different.
I guess
You
it's the
know,
ability to
any
do
any
it.
legitimate church, obviously.
We'll put it to conditional.
Hey, Sean, hey, Sean,
Then we
put
can-
GCC two back up there, would you please?
Current one?
Yeah.
As you wish.
Then we can,
God, I got so many windows open.
we can discriminate when they come in to put, for their conditional
Is
use
that-
permit.
Is that C, Louis? 57.01C, does that?
No, you're good.
Talking
I'm
about
just trying to get us
exercise?
through this.
No, I'm talking about, does that cover hardware
I
stores?
think we're close.
Where you
I
at?
love
Where
debate.
is it?
I just want to.
115701C. I think that to
Building
me
material,
covers hardware
retail.
stores. Is that
Plumbing,
not?
Electrical, I did scratch hardware.
101C.
Where you got two hardwares? I thought I scratched one.
Yeah, I was thinking hardware was, yeah.
Okay, as lawn equipment sales and service.
Yeah, there actually was a hardware in, but I removed it because there was building material, retail, plumbing, and all that other good jazzy stuff that I considered a hardware.
Jazzy.
Jazzy, exercise.
Jazzercise. While we pray.
Synergy, jazzercise.
Gosh, you guys.
Only in a religious capacity, though.
While you're praying,
We have completely derailed, in case anyone is interested.
John's got a new workout program we haven't heard about.
Anything else, Mr. May?
All right. So that gets us through
Lots
that.
while you're praying.
Any other items before we close out GCC
No.
2 and we park this train back in the
That's
station?
it. So,
we're back on the train.
Jim, quickly take us through your inspector report.
Well, do we need to make a motion?
Oh, yeah. Let's make a motion. Yes.
I make a motion to pass GCC 1 and GC 2 with the edits that we discussed tonight.
I will second.
Forward as a recommendation. to
You'll see you've
council.
job.
Or, yeah, as a recommendation.
How about agricultural district? God, I hate to keep doing it, but if there's nothing glaring there, we can kick that over to council.
Basically, what that means, the only thing on there is that it becomes that
We're just
district.
adding a district. Currently, we don't have an agricultural district, and the point of it is if we have an agricultural district, then I can change the annexation requirement instead of it being rural residential,
It's better than rural
which
residential.
rural residential
Right,
is
it's more requirements.
a little bit more dense than I think you want it to be. it goes to agricultural. So that is the whole purpose of it. The quicker we can get that on the books, the
Yeah.
easier it's gonna be for annexation not to come in as rural residential, and that it actually comes in
That's
as
probably
agricultural.
more important than the GCC. It's the
Oh,
agriculture
that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
That was prioritized.
Right, I was gonna say that one's very short.
That one's like super
One
short.
definition.
It is,
basically.
literally, that's it.
Yep, let's go ahead and I'll make a motion for that.
To approve all
Wait,
three.
there was a motion before for GCC.
So we are adding
The agricultural.
the
to that.
agricultural to
So
that
we're all-
motion. Yes. Jesse made the motion, I seconded. We'll have a roll call when you're ready.
I'm first.
Okay, this is GCC one, GCC two.
She rotates
and
it, so-
Agricultural, right?
Oh, are you?
Forward to
Okay.
council?
Yes.
Okay.
And agriculture?
Yep.
How about beef cattle? You got dairy cattle. How about
Yeah,
beef
we're
cattle?
not doing beef cattle.
Well, we already got cattle in Johnstown. Well,
Well,
Sportsman's
it's
Club,
agricultural. Your agricultural limited to dairy.
We got
Where does it
cattle
say
and light
dairy?
manufacturing district. on Sportsman's
Almost got it through.
That's a good point.
No, I think it says feeding, grazing, sheltering animals or poultry in pens or confined areas with
Don't say
200
it.
feet residential use. So C, feeding, I mean, if you're feeding it, I'm assuming that's beef cattle. Where do you see dairy?
You can't raise bears. You
I
can't,
didn't realize we lost Gary. He had enough.
you can't raise bears or anything.
Yeah.
He went back to Etna.
Fur bearing. Right there.
I'm not sure where you got,
It's talking about eleven
You
twenty-nine.
can't raise a dog either, you know that?
Under
Huh?
definition,
Dog's fur bearing.
agricultural use means use
What
of
it
land
says?
for growing crops in the open,
Dairy.
dairying,
You can't raise
pasturing.
bears.
horticultural, necessary accessory uses including
Sheep?
farming operations and
What's
residential.
that word, dairy?
I think it qualifies as farming operations, except for beef cattle.
We can't raise sheep?
You can't raise sheep.
Pastures?
Necessary for
fur-bearing.
carrying out farming operations.
That does not include feeding garbage to animals, which I never did that, but raising poultry or fur-bearing animals as a principal use. I'm just reading what it says.
Feeding, grazing, and sheltering of animals.
You can't raise bears, you can't raise sheep.
Well, you can't raise bears anyway.
Those are
Well, now, wait a
exotic
minute now.
animals. You can't raise.
Jack Hanna fixed that. You
It's
can't
just
do
saying,
that.
it's just trying to point at the point that it says fur-bearing.
Right.
And so the point of it is, what, that's a limitation of what agriculture is going to be. And the only real stipulation you put on there is about 200 feet from a residential area, all right? So now I got 200 acres and I want to raise sheep and I can't.
No,
If
I think you
were to
can.
annex them in here. Okay.
It says you can't?
You said you can't. It says right here.
Where?
Right here it says, agricultural does not include feeding garbage animals or raising poultry or fur-bearing animals as a principal use, or operation or
Fur-bearing.
maintenance of commercial. Right there.
That'd be llamas and
So-
canoes and.
That's right. You can't raise llamas and stuff like that.
Because it's a fur-bearing animal?
Yeah,
So a llama is fur?
yeah,
Yeah.
Sheep is fur?
yes.
Yeah.
Call it hair, call it fur, what's
You're from
hair?
Johnstown?
I thought it was a hide. Cowhide, sheep hide.
I mean, I don't know that it's designated as fur, but I understand the vein. you're
I
going
think
down.
fur-bearing is for exotic animals. I mean, if
Fur
you-
bearing's like raccoons for hats. Like, which,
We need to spell that out.
yeah.
No, I'm just trying to say that
I'm
that
gonna
you put fur-bearing
Google
in there.
fur-bearing.
You're splitting the words pretty heavily here.
David Crockett hats.
Raccoons, we got a lot of raccoons.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Make some Davy Crockett hats.
Textile
Of animals
agriculture.
having fur, that's all.
Have a caveat for textile agriculture.
Are you Googling fur bearing?
First example of fur bearing is raccoon.
Fur-bearing animals, beavers, badgers, fox,
Yes.
mink, muskrats, possums, otters, raccoons, ring-tailed cats. I do not
Is
see
a
where it says sheep.
Fur bearing.
Emus.
I don't think.
Because it's
sheep
not,
is a fur.
fur.
I don't think sheep is a
It's
fur.
hair, you call it hair, call it wool, call it what you want. I just think that's kind of splitting the meeting pretty heavily. I mean,
All right, so what,
You really
what
get-
do you
I'm
recommend?
I'm looking up, I'm not
Let me change
texting
it.
right now,
I wouldn't
I'm
have
looking
it.
this up.
Okay, a fur bearer is a mammal whose fur has commercial value. So sheep,
Does wool have more commercial value?
sure,
Okay.
llamas,
right, Lum, so that's why I look
Whose
at it.
fur has commercial value.
yeah.
Yeah,
So then we're gonna split hairs again. Is sheep wool considered fur? Because I've never heard anybody refer to their coat as a fur coat, it's always a wool coat. It's a
Right.
sheepskin coat. It's not a fur coat. A fur coat is mink, tiger, whatever you want to call it. I've never heard anybody refer to,
Yeah, they're,
Holy
the
cow.
definitions on here, yeah, the definitions on there are tough to go
Yeah,
through.
but sweaters and stuff are made out of sheep. That's fur. I think I think that is a bad statement. I just do. Fur bearing.
So you want to take just fur bearing out
Yeah,
or
just
all
take
the other?
fur bearing, just, just take fur bearing out. It can't, I don't care if you wanna say that it can't be, like a raccoon, you wanna get specific on what it is.
We're gonna have a mink.
We just don't want to end up with a tanning factory.
That's right, you don't, but by the same hand, if I own the acreage, and there are sheep farmers around here, like that, and there are cattle, meat farmers, stuff like
I
that.
know a cow does not have
I
fur.
was saying
I can tell you that.
Uh-huh. Fur's got hide on it. He's got hide. But I'm just saying that I think it's gonna make, you can make a big argument on this
Sean,
that you don't wanna go through.
what's the definition of domestic animal?
Lives in your house?
Domestic.
Lives domestically in your house?
Cat, dog.
No, they have they have
But I
cats
mean-
and dogs that live outdoors, but
If you're trying to separate the wild from the farm type animals,
Animals that are bred to live alongside humans.
how about we pass this through and then we bring this to council because it still has to go to council. And
Do you think council's gonna bring up these great points though?
yeah, John and I are on council, so it will get brought up.
Use of language.
Well, I mean.
I know John's watching
okay.
at
I
home.
mean, I know
Thanks,
what you're
John.
trying to do. I just,
know.
Yeah.
Fur bearer is a hunting term for trapping animals. And I actually saw
Fur
that
coat.
when I Googled. So it refers to animals that are trapped for their
Fox
fur.
coat.
Okay, so
Right.
you would be allowed to do sheep.
Yes.
I mean, I just think that
We will research it
I'm not
in
saying you
depth.
shouldn't put something in there, I'm just saying that it would be more, to me, it would be more explainable that you would say something more, that would be more
English.
definitive than fur bearing. There's people
Yeah,
are gonna
'cause-
argue with you about that.
Well, we have a lot of sheep and alpaca
Right.
farmers around here. We do, so we don't want to exclude that.
They don't wanna cause any
I
trouble.
agree.
That's the idea.
another question is on this so-called rural or agricultural, are you trying to sneak in
Yes.
114102 also?
14102.
Because that's attached to this proposal.
Zoning district purpose, residential, oh, good gosh, no. That should not be a part of it. A lot of copy and
Okay.
paste going on. Good catch. 1141, zoning district purpose, residential.
I see what they're trying to do, sneak stuff in on us now,
That's
aren't they?
right. The final draft would have caught that.
Well,
No?
All right, I think we got a motion on the
Solid.
table.
Well, no, all right, back
We
up.
have to add that to it.
Louis, hold on. Yes, 1141.02 zoning district's purpose. So this is the start of a larger body of text. So you have district purpose, then you have commercial, industrial, planned unit development, special district, and F is agricultural district. So that is meant to be in there. We will not remove that because it is part of 1141.02 that agricultural district is actually being.
You're adding that
added to.
reference in that.
1141.02 already exists in our current
but there's
code.
already a proposal where you're changing 1141.
How do you mean? Yes, we are gonna change 1141.02 to add agricultural district. What do you mean?
Because both of them go to council same time.
They're together. One is the
Okay,
district purpose, so it establishes the district. So we have to establish the district. And then
but the table,
the definition defines what it is.
the table on this one
that?
is not critical.
You won my heart, let's quit.
Where you at?
It doesn't agree, the table doesn't agree.
I think he's talking about the districts.
The symbols.
The districts generally. 1141.
Okay.
1141.
There's an ordinance in there, the one that I made the comments on to the side.
Right. So
I
you
don't
change it to
have that
1141,
copy.
maybe want to come off of there and just be update to include those changes.
Wait a minute, where are you at? You're on, oh, we're not passing that tonight. Districts
No.
General? That's not on, that's not, they're not making a recommendation for that one, correct?
I'm on chapter 1141, which you've added to the bottom of the rural. What I say, 1141.
So our motion includes A, B, and D currently.
So at the end of the agricultural ordinance, Sean,
Yes?
Yeah.
he mentioned 114102 at the end, and the whole next page, page 48.
403.
49.
Bailey did that one, that's why I can't remember. And it wasn't, I'm not throwing her under the bus, she's right, because we wanted to put this in there so that it would have the similar use districts.
Right.
But the only thing I'm saying,
I said, why don't you give her a call?
if you go, you've already got this one in process,
This-
why don't you change it?
This question's above my level.
Then I get what he's doing.
I don't.
And the reason I caught that is because in this one, my request to add the chapters for each one of the zoning codes was added.
In the comments I made to the side, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
The comments on the side?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're,
I don't think there's been a
you're at
draft.
1141, right?
John.
Because we did add that
Okay.
in the other part.
If you change to 02, then it could be added here, and then to the table, agricultural ag.
See if I can figure this out quickly, if not, it's gonna set us back a little bit.
I got another thing now, too. It could be a tremendous asset to the board.
He might. Yeah, it says he might.
On the council, huh? He will. You can tell by that look at the top.
102,
Nah,
application.
that's too serious up there for me.
Brian,
I gotta stay
on
down here.
this
so
RR, oh, I'm
I
sorry,
gotta stay down here.
on this.
I was gonna say, that's rural residential, we're trying to,
B-team?
yeah.
Was there
Six, I
any
can say no.
discussion or any
doesn't matter.
consideration given
I am saying the same
to
thing.
running public
I'm sitting right
services
here.
past that 5 acre? But if you have 5 acres annexed, or let's say you have 10 of them, and they want 5 of them to be residential that need water and sewer, so you've got to run the water and sewer past that 5 acres to that other plot that they want to. So the cost of that's gonna be borne by the city.
Well, if the city agrees to annex it, because this, the part of the annexation request is, can the city provide the services?
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah, I see what you mean. So if
but
they're,
the services are,
Provided you gotta pay for them.
well, that would be
part of the,
annexation.
yeah, that's part of the
If you
annexation
can't
and the
pay for
impact.
them,
We have impact fees and things like that
Yeah.
that handle things
then
like
you have
that.
to- Or if they wanna pay for them themselves,
Well,
then,
that just kills your annexation.
Not necessarily.
no, I wouldn't think so.
Oh.
If you wanted
Yeah,
to be
well.
if you wanted to be annexed bad enough, and the
You'll
city
pay
says,
it.
look, we can't afford to run water and sewer out to you, well, if you want it bad enough, it's like the golf course out
Yeah.
here. Talked about becoming part of Johnstown. The only way it would happen is if they pay for their water and sewer.
They get annexed without water and sewer.
That's part of the conversation when anybody comes in though, because each property is unique, so you don't always, you're not gonna have the same thing every time,
You have to commit to the county commissioners.
right?
I will provide this, and this. Water and sewer are the traditional, and police
Right.
protection.
And police.
Are basically the 3 that the village or city controls that you provide on annexation.
Right.
You're gonna have to walk me through this. I'm still not seeing where you're at with the issue.
I'll show you.
Yeah, show me, Teresa, I'm sorry.
So they're just,
Oh, Teresa's gonna come show me what
you're
you're,
just talking about the numbering.
yeah, what you're talking about.
That's what they're talking about.
No,
Okay.
All right,
we had to get our
I know.
streets,
because we're not passing this.
had to come.
Right, but the problem is if you don't pass this, then you can't pass this because
Take care of
Yes,
In
show
your
me.
front yard though, they didn't go into your
it's
house.
all out of order.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
47,
You buy this 5 acre lot.
9, 50.
Okay, so
Yep.
here's the
City's just
problem.
cost us, isn't it, here? You have to get it from the house.
Right, you do.
Yeah.
This,
Six, yep.
right, and
That's
then
all-
you
that's
run
all
into
part of the
this.
annexing.
What's this?
But when they looked at the streets,
Zoning district purpose, what do
Right,
you
but
mean?
why
This
is
is
it-
already in our code.
Right, but why is it part of this?
streets adopted into the
Why
village.
is it, why is,
Actually, it was the alleys. We have 2 alleys.
why is
They
this
were trying to say that.
at the end of
those were streets.
agricultural?
And I said,
Because
"That's more
this has to be done in order to include agricultural in our
I had to bring it
Right.
up.
zoning districts.
So, this is 114102, but 114102
As their sidebar, do you go online and look at the ordinances?
this
or
is
the
114102.
Codified ordinance,
Yes.
be very
But we're not
careful.
amending
So if you don't wanna
1142.
do this one,
That one
just
we're not
scratch
doing.
that.
Yes.
Ordinances
This is
that
already
pass
currently
and
here.
change those that are not
Right,
codified.
but why is it attached
Really?
to this?
We're
We just
we're working
didn't
on
catch
that.
It was actually two different.
That's
I
true,
hear
but
that all
I'm
the time.
telling him
Yeah.
for education.
Right.
That
So
is
they're
the
two separate
greatest
parts of the
sentence I've ever heard. We're working on it.
It's not gonna be
You know,
this.
that's a sentence that I've heard about 1,000 times. You know, we're working on it. That's pretty good.
Unfortunately, when we inherited a lot of this, there was
So
a
this
lot
was
to
meant
be
to be-
done.
I know, I can imagine, I know
it's-
that, you know, I know.
It is a work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yes.
But they're two different,
You can go online on the codified
Add the
ordinance
definition.
and find the
This shouldn't be a
chapter
part
that
of
you
this.
want.
So this is not ready to pass tonight then.
It is and it isn't.
Current
So if you just take
ordinances
this,
that
which
have
is your
been
definition
passed.
of agricultural,
And look
Right.
to see if there's any
and then
ordinance
this
that
is
affects
district
that
part of
chapter.
agriculture.
Right.
They're just not separated.
It's just like the Ohio Revised Code.
We can
Right.
pass this through at council, right?
And I
It's a
work
little
it.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I get to council,
If
this
you
will be
make it
separated,
clear-
and this will be
To get
separate.
to
if you
the
make it clear
village.
that these will be
So we'll
separated.
we'll make a motion to
It
do
needs to
that.
be, and I
Or-
just attach them all together.
I agree.
for-
I'll get on there.
But I just want to tell you
And I
that in
didn't
case you.
Right.
That's
No,
right.
and I
But
didn't.
then we had
eliminate
this.
it.
That's why I look,
That's
I just
totally
look at.
separate.
But that's why-
The same packet,
These
so
show
his
draft
is this.
Is what I print them off
See, I lumped
this.
everything together for.
once
convenient
council
purposes.
approves
So
them.
we're not doing
Nope.
anything with this
Or
tonight.
No.
And
whether
we're gonna
Right.
introduced to
separate
council.
the
The
agricultural.
definition
So I've got
from the district.
Right.
So you have
If you know
definition.
that, we
codified.
can
Right.
Yes.
fix
There's-
it.
Okay,
I think
good.
17,
Get it passed.
and I
Hallelujah.
can't, I think.
Okay.
I
So-
see what he's saying, but I think it's a technicality.
It is, it just shouldn't be in the same.
So you've got.
We just want it numbered and to flow correctly. I totally get it.
So
We
had no
will
idea
amend
what
that.
we're looking at.
Okay. Louis, if you could take your seat and we'll continue here. We'll continue. You don't look comfortable. You don't look like you're having a good time. Okay.
Oh, he is.
So, what we will do on that specific piece, I mean, obviously, if you don't pass it tonight, that's an option. We also have the option to conditionally approve, and the necessary changes will happen before it gets to council to be voted on.
And I can describe what happened. So basically, you have the definition, and then you also have the district. So procedurally, we should have had definitions on one
Right.
ordinance, and then district establishment on another. Teresa and I forwarded everything to her as a block, and I didn't specify, hey, this needs to be pulled out and put into a different ordinance. So when she's got the ordinances teed up, what we need to do is actually have another ordinance, because the first ordinance is gonna do the defining, so that we can have fur-bearing animals. The second one is gonna be, the second one is gonna do district establishments.
You guys get it?
Now, wait a minute.
The second one's
So-
gonna be district, so we're gonna just include it, so it's in there, it's just not separated,
And we're
so.
scratching this one, Louis.
Yes.
And 1140,
Scratching this one.
yeah, 1141, they're not passing that at all. And we don't need to.
Go pull that out.
So if you absolutely hate this, hate the optics of it, everything, want to see it written up correctly, you have that option to not vote for it tonight, but I think we trust our staff, so we can conditionally approve that.
That's what day it is.
I know what we're doing, we got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
So-
Teresa said she's got it, I
We can
trust her.
conditionally approve, we will see it again at council. Any changes that need to happen can happen with council. Feel free to come to that meeting and and speak to us.
You have so damn
And,
many meetings, which ones are gonna be at?
Well, we will,
Do we trust
the rate we're
council?
going, we will have one every week if we need to. We are almost there. We did that for zoning, last year. We had a meeting almost every week. So whatever we need to do to make it right, we'll make it right.
We have a motion and a second on the thing, so we have to either deal with that,
So-
one way or the other.
Yes.
Kick it, or
So we will-
go with it.
Remember, council's 5 new members, and they table it.
Yeah.
Well, good. They're just walking in off the street. So,
That's council's prerogative, let's stick.
Yeah, we will,
Let's deal with it, let's deal with it.
we make our recommendations here and if council, yeah.
We don't get to
listen
this.
to me, but I will.
Hey, I listen to you every time.
Let's move forward with the vote. We're motion and second, let's move forward.
Do we need to include that other provision, in our recommendation, the table of contents? We need to, is that a separate section we need to include in this motion?
You can just say motion
A
for
motion, our.
A, B, and
Our
then.
motion includes the other section too, the definitions.
Yeah, and we have done this.
Okay, all right.
We have done this before, because when we were going through zoning before, we did this to Bailey all the time. We told her, go ahead and pass that, but you need to fix
As the edits.
as the edits, yeah.
Did that?
Yeah, we've done that plenty of other times, so.
call.
Tell me you're gonna arrest them.
Things aren't going my
Steve
way.
Dyer.
Yes.
Charlie Campbell.
Yes.
Jesse
He's gonna go
Powell.
to bed.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes, okay. So that is passed. We'll go ahead and briefly let Jim give his inspector's report.
A couple of just things worth pointing out. New building permits have just about stopped.
Okay.
You can see I only had 2 in August. I think last August I had like 14. And so far, this month, I've had none. Just under property maintenance, I have 3 court cases that'll be heard on September
Interest
22nd.
rates.
I went over last week and met with the prosecuting attorney on the 3 of them, and I put together a game plan.
Okay.
And I've got another one that'll probably go for a summons maybe tomorrow if I get it ready. And that's all property maintenance issues, neglect is what it is. People that just aren't doing the basic minimum on the property. On the second page, I put just some information. 129 East Coshocton's been very busy there. Window World moved into one bay of the garage. It's going to be a storage office, no sales. There's a medical spa that's renting like 200 square feet from a beauty salon that's renting the front of the building where Troyer's was at. So there's 3 new businesses all in that one building. We talked about a little bit about obviously the community bank, what's going on there. Went to the design review tonight and got tabled. They have it had this. What went to it tonight was just the monument sign. That's all I really got. I just got a print from it today, and it looks like we're going to have to do a design review because they're eliminating the glass entrance way to the building. That's all going to be bricked in, and it's going to be a side entrance off the parking lot.
Okay.
New coffee shop, he might be open the end of October. Redwood, we know, still tabled. Ace Hardware, we're waiting on a check. And Leafy Dell Apartments has been, and of course the Bell Store is under construction.
Okay.
How
Any-
much building permit you issued?
For new houses,
He said just 2.
all 24.
Oh,
You're aware that could get court action and all of those reversed based upon 1183.
What do you mean, Ray? I'm not following.
The tree ordinance, which was passed, states that you shall not issue any building permits until a city city architect issues approval.
Well, there's no trees involved.
It's dumb.
Well,
I don't agree with it, but that's the wording. Sean's working it. But I'm warning you that there could be,
I'm not involved with it, the bad part. He wants me to correct it, so
Yeah.
clarify.
We will definitely take a look at that. Nope.
it's already passed.
Yeah,
Yeah, before I got here.
we'll take a look at that.
I've got the edited going to
Before I got
the
here.
commission.
The only other thing that I had, any questions for Jim? Anybody? Okay. All right, the only other thing that I had, I did go down and investigate in Leafy Dell, where they've been cutting trees. People hearing chainsaws running down there, so that's just
Behind the apartments.
yeah, that's just a gas line right away,
That-
maintenance.
That's the retention area and it's been ordered by Jack Leggett to be cleaned up.
Yeah, so I went down, they're just cleaning that up through there, so,
I'm glad they're funny.
yeah.
That's supposed to be available to hold water, and then nothing's ever been done there since they plowed it, or, I mean, they developed it,
Yeah.
seeded it, and then it's
That happens when
just.
you-
They told me it was just right away maintenance, is what they told me.
It happens when you
All
work
right,
outside. Okay.
so go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
All right, all in favor?
Would, dang it.
Aye.
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 Good night, Johnstown.
Mr. Second.
Give me just a second to, Doc?